Christmas mug's out now. So excited. My heart gets colder. I lose my soul. Hello. I'm back. I've done some reading of New Moon and it's time to sit down and have a little discussion of the beginning of the book. So the book starts off with, these violent delights have violent ends, and their triumph die like fire and powder, which as they kiss consume, which is a quote from Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet. And I'm pretty sure they started off New Moon by saying that. So they really went true to script again. And I honestly think that as cliche as that is, it is making a lot of sense for this book in particular, because Edward and Bella, if they're gonna do anything, they're gonna die for each other. Like, they're gonna give up their lives for each other. Okay, I also want to bring up something that I didn't discuss in the Twilight vlog, but I think about this every time I flip to a new chapter. The chapter names are always one word that has to, like, you know, sum up like the entire chapter. Chapter 1, party. I wonder if there's gonna be a party in that chapter. Chapter 2, stitches. Does she get stitches? I guess we're gonna have to find out. I think we could have done better with the title names, personally. I will say, though this book is mainly the relationship between Bella and Jacob, like, evolving over time, the beginning where we see Bella and Edward together, I liked it more than anything we saw in Twilight, and I don't know why. This book has been so much quicker for me to get through than Twilight was. I feel like I'm totally out of my reading slump. I'm enjoying every second of this. I think about this book all day, every day, and all I want to do is read it. And I don't want to put it down. Like, I've been reading till like 2, 3 in the morning and then being like, oh my god, I did it again. But yeah, I'm enjoying this book so much more than Twilight. Like, I fear New Moon is better than Twilight, but I also feel like this might be people's least favorite book just because Bella spends most of it being depressed and Edward's not in the majority of it. For some reason, the whole like depression vibe of it makes it like really cozy and enjoyable for me personally. So chapter 1, party. Bella is starting off this chapter by having a dream, and she's dreaming of her grandmother. And we see this happening in the movie at the very beginning. They're in the fields that Bella and Edward go to, and she sees her grandmother in the field and she's really confused. She notices that like her face goes into a surprised smile and her grandmother's face mirrors that. Edward starts walking into the field and she's freaking out because she's like, oh my god, my grandmother, who's dead, and this is obviously a dream, but like, she's gonna see my vampire boyfriend, and how am I going to explain that? Edward comes up to Bella, puts his arm around her, and she puts her arm around him, and then she notices that her grandma has like her arm out weird too. I fucking wonder why. I know I'm making fun of this, but I actually think it was a really, really good start to the book. And then suddenly a huge gilt frame that enclosed my grandmother's form appeared. It's a mirror. She's staring at her own reflection. It's not her grandmother, or maybe it is her grandmother, but it's supposed to be her old because, surprise, surprise, it's her 18th birthday, making her older than Edward because Edward is forever 17 years old, even though he's fucking like 108. Hello? And she's afraid that she's gonna keep getting older and older and older and older and then have this 17-year-old boyfriend and then eventually die. Which makes sense because if I was in this position, God forbid, I would be afraid of the same thing. That was me. Me in a mirror. Me, ancient, creased, and withered. Edward stood beside me, casting no reflection, excruciatingly lovely and forever 17. That's the other thing. They really like play into these like vampire tropes. Like, she really is wondering if Edward's gonna show up in mirrors or if he's gonna show up in photographs, when he's already been very clear about the fact that he doesn't have those like stereotypical mythological traits. Happy birthday, he whispered. She wakes up. It's September 13th, Bella's birthday. What does that make her, a Virgo? I think that makes her a Virgo. I like Virgo women. Virgo men? I mean, feel free to prove me wrong. Maybe I will like a Virgo man eventually, but all the ones I've met have not been my favorite. They meet Alice at school, and it's very clear that like Bella and Alice have gotten very, very close, which I love to see. I really love Bella and Alice's relationship. Alice laughed, and the sound was all silver, a wind chime. What a beautiful, perfect description of Alice. Like, that was one of the times in the book where I was like, yeah, that's a really beautiful worded sentence. And I think this book or this series is not focused on language and making things sound really good. It's more focused on building plot, characters, relationships, and shock value rather than the actual writing. The actual writing is very, very simple, but I think that's what got me out of the reading slump, because if I wanted beautifully crafted sentences, I would read Fitzgerald or Sally Rooney, who I love. Sally Rooney is probably my favorite author right now, but it just gets exhausting to analyze and overanalyze things sometimes, and you just need something very, very simple, which is why I like this series. We also find out that she works at Newton's store, which is a like outdoorsy camping, hiking type store, which is interesting. So she works with Mike. Alice really wants to celebrate Bella's birthday, but she's all up in arms about having a birthday, and she will not let it go. Edward really wants to buy her a new car, and it's very clear, like, because they've had hundreds of years to save up money and create careers and such for themselves, money's not really an object. But I do wonder, like, is this all Carlisle's money and everyone just gets to spend the money willy-nilly? Because Edward doesn't have a job. Or does Edward have his own stash of money saved up from over the years? I don't know. I really wish we got to learn more about that. But anyway, Bella's really uncomfortable about this, because how could I let him give me things when I had nothing to reciprocate with? And I think this is a very obvious call out on the nature of their relationship being very unbalanced. Like, we have the age thing, right? He's 100 years old. She's 18 now. So that's disgusting in itself. But then there's like the whole vampire thing where she's just like a frail, small girl, and he's this huge, fast, strong vampire that can control her. Now we have, on top of that, he's rich and has all this money and can get for her anything that she could ever need, and she is poor and doesn't feel like she has anything really to offer him as just like a young, poor human. And it just like makes the scales. Edward is just going up and up and up and up, and Bella's just all the way down here. And then she explains the new like at school situation. The three of us, Edward, Alice, and I, sat on the extreme southern end of the table. Now that the older and somewhat scarier Cullen siblings had graduated, Alice and Edward did not seem quite so intimidating, and we did not sit here alone. My other friends, Mike and Jessica, who were in the awkward post-breakup friendship phase, Angela and Ben, whose relationship had survived the summer, Eric, Connor, Tyler, and Lauren all sat at the same table on the other side of the invisible line. So, okay, we learned so much in this little blurb. Bella's old friends and the Cullen family are all one big family now. They all sit at the table together. Edward and Alice are like the younger siblings, while Emmett and Rosalie were the older ones. So Emmett and Rosalie graduated and went off to college, or so everyone in Forks thinks. Mike and Jessica did end up dating and broke up. Ben and Angela are still together. And I never talked about this girl Lauren, because I don't believe that she's in the movies at all. She is part of the friend group, mostly friends with Jessica, and her, you know how Jessica can be like kind of mean, kind of annoying sometimes? This Lauren girl is even worse. They kind of like team up together sometimes. Lauren really, really hates Bella, and I think that started with her getting like all of the attention when she first came to the school in Forks. Edward and Bella talk about the fact that when Bella almost died, he was making contingency plans. He says that he wasn't going to live without her. I was thinking maybe I would go to Italy and do something to provoke the Volturi, because the Volturi would unalive him if need be, and only a vampire can kill another vampire, so Edward says. What is a Volturi? I demanded. The Volturi are a family, he explained, his eyes still remote, a very old, very powerful family of our kind. They are the closest thing our world has to a royal family. Carlisle lived with them briefly in his early years in Italy before he settled in America. Do you remember the story? They talked about this a little bit in Twilight. And I just want to say, this first part of the book feels so disconnected with how the rest of the book goes, because it's kind of like bookended with, we start off with Edward. We spend 90% of the book, maybe even 95% of the book, with just learning about Jacob. And then at the end, I'm not there yet, but Bella's gonna have to go and save Edward. So we come like full circle with the Volturi stuff. But I don't know, the vibe of the beginning just is nothing like how the rest of the book goes. Bella remembers the original talk they had about the Volturi. Edward had never used the name for the beautiful trio, 2 black-haired, 1 snow-white. He'd called them Arrow, Caius, and Marcus, nighttime patrons of the arts. Renee, Bella's mom, got her a scrapbook for her birthday and told Charlie to buy her a camera to go with it, and Charlie did. Edward convinces Bella to come over for her birthday. Edward asks again if he could buy her an Audi for her birthday. She says, no, you know what I want, which pisses him off. He says, this isn't going to be your last birthday, Bella. She ends up taking a picture of him on her new camera, and she says, if I develop this film, will you show up in the picture? Edward started laughing. He helped me out of the car, pulled me up the stairs, and was still laughing as he opened the door for me. He never even responded, but we can assume that that means obviously he will show up on camera, because that's just a myth. Emmett says hi to Bella and then says, you haven't changed at all. I expected a perceptible difference, but here you are, red-faced, just like always. He laughed. I have to step out for a second. Don't do anything funny when I'm gone. I also think they have a really sweet relationship. He finds her being klutzy and embarrassed all the time really, really funny as a human. Like anything she does as a human, he laughs at, which is very cute. They give her an empty box for her birthday, and then it turns out that it's a new stereo for her truck, which Emmett left to go put in her truck. But then something crazy happens. Shoot, I muttered when the paper sliced my finger. A single drop of blood oozed from the tiny cut. No, Edward roared. He threw himself at me, flinging me across the table. It fell as I did, scattering the cake and the presents, the flowers and the plates. I landed in the mess of shattered crystal. Jasper slammed into Edward. Dazed and disoriented, I looked up from the bright red blood pulsating out of my arm into the fevered eyes of the 6 sudden, ravenous vampires. So this is the first issue we have where it's not just like someone on the outside is posing a threat to Bella. It's like his own family is going to hurt her, because the one little drop of blood set off Jasper and kind of set off the rest of them as well. That's all I'm going to talk about for now, but we have a lot more to discuss. It gets crazier and crazier and crazier and crazier and crazier and crazier. I literally slept with my book next to me last night. I read like a chapter and then I couldn't sleep, so I just opened up my book and turned on my book light at like 2 a.m. and read some more. So yeah, I'm gonna be doing this every night for sure. It's 8 a.m. I was supposed to go shopping in the US today, but my friend canceled on me, and now I'm just awake and in bed. Oh, but luckily I sleep right next to this thing, so I can just crack her open. I'm just gonna lay in bed for a little bit and read and just try to put myself in a better mood. Talk to you guys some more about New Moon. I have my blue outfit on today. This isn't a set. I just put on 2 blue items of clothing today. I have a green tea. Very skin safe. Chapter 2, Stitches. Obviously, Carlisle is the only one out of the family that's like super used to like blood and stuff because he's a doctor. So he remains calm. Everybody else freaks out. Edward's like trying to keep it together and stay in the room, but everyone can tell that he's really struggling. So the only people left are Carlisle, Edward, and Alice with Bella. Carlisle says, Edward, you may as well go find Jasper before he gets too far. I'm sure he's upset with himself, and I doubt he'll listen to anyone but you right now. Alice says, you might as well do something useful, which is just so fucking funny. Like, kick him while he's fucking down, bitch. I love that. But then Alice ends up having to leave as well. Bella asks Carlisle, like, how he can do this, and he says, years and years of practice, which obviously they say that exact same thing in the movie as well. And we learn more about, like, his history. I love learning about the histories of the characters, especially Carlisle, and just, like, his thoughts on being a doctor. He says, what I enjoy the very most is when my enhanced abilities let me save someone who would otherwise have been lost. It's pleasant knowing that thanks to what I can do, some people's lives are better off because I exist. Because we know that his father was a priest, and he felt very ashamed of just what he had become, like being a vampire. And then when he learned that he could prey on animals instead of humans, it was like a new world opened up for him. He could finally exist and not feel guilty about it. So that makes so much sense that it's like, not only is he just helping people, but the way his job is, like, he can do even better than most doctors because of his sense of smell and really good hearing. And you know, he's been alive for so many years that he collects all this knowledge and he never gets tired. And because of this, he's able to help more people than the average doctor. He stitches Bella up. He explains that he's never doubted whether God exists, not even as a vampire. So he still believes in God and he's still religious, even being a vampire. I'm hoping that there's still a point in life, even for us. We're damned regardless, but I hope foolishly that we'll get some measure of credit for trying. And Bella says, I don't think that's foolish. So he's basically saying, like, he thinks that because he's a vampire, he's doomed to hell, basically. But he hopes that because him and his family try to be good by not harming people, that there's some hope that they'll end up in heaven. But Edward doesn't believe that there's an afterlife for them. So Edward believes that no matter what they do, they're all going to hell. You see, he thinks we've lost our souls. And this is the whole thing about the fucking souls that goes through this whole book. We hear it in the movie too. Like, is this about my soul? Like, who gives a fuck? She's basically talking about wanting to become a vampire, saying that it's her choice, and Carlisle says it's his choice too. Whether he's responsible for doing that to you, Bella says she's not the only one that can do it, basically saying that she is willing to ask around, get another vampire to do this for her. Oh, and then we hear more about Edward's mom, which was super, super interesting. Okay, so Carlisle's talking about how he wanted to make a family because he was by himself for a really long time. I think in most ways, what I've done is the best I could with what I had to work with. But was it right to doom the others to this life? I can't decide. So even though he's only choosing people that were gonna die anyway, he's like, was it right to doom them to eternal, life as a vampire and then like possibly going to hell? Is that selfish of me just because I wanted a family? Maybe. It was Edward's mother who made up my mind. Elizabeth Mason. His father, Edward Sr., never regained consciousness in the hospital. He died in the first wave of the influenza, but Elizabeth was alert until almost the very end. We learn that Edward's eyes used to be green. Elizabeth worried obsessively over her son. She hurt her own chances of survival trying to nurse him from her sickbed. I expected that he would go first. He was so much worse off than she was. When the end came for her, it was very quick. It was just after sunset, and I'd arrived to relieve the doctors who'd been working all day. That was a hard time to pretend. There was so much work to be done, and I had no need of rest. So literally, he has to, play up this facade of being a human when he could just work forever and, not get tired of it. Which would be hard during times of crisis like that. He almost needed to have 2 different hospital jobs because then he could just go from one to the other. She didn't look weak when she glared up at me from her cot. Save him, she commanded me in a hoarse voice. That was all her throat could manage. I'll do everything in my power, I promised her. You must do everything in your power, what others cannot. That is what you must do for my Edward. I felt certain that she knew my secret. There, Edward lay, dying. It was clear he had only hours left. How could she guess what I could do? Could anyone really want that for her son? For some reason, Edward's mom knew that Carlisle was a vampire and wanted her son to become a vampire. And this is a mystery that, like, we'll never know the answer to. Like, how did she know? Why is she okay with that? Like, is it better to become a vampire than it is to die? I looked at Edward. Sick as he was still beautiful. There was something pure and good about his face. The kind of face I would have wanted my son to have. Stop it, that's so cute. I stole him out the back door and carried him across rooftops back to my home. I wasn't sure what had to be done. I settled for recreating the wounds I'd received myself. I felt bad about that later. It was more painful and lingering than necessary. So he didn't actually need to create all those wounds to make Edward become a vampire, but he didn't know how vampires were created. So Edward comes back and something is like really off with him all of a sudden. Obviously, like, he feels guilty for what happened to Bella. Carlisle says tonight is exactly the kind of thing that he fears the most, you being put in danger because of what we are. And then Edward goes to take Bella home and they have a fight about it. If you cut yourself at Mike Newton's house with Jessica there and Angela and your other normal friends, the worst that could have possibly happened would be what? Maybe they could find you a bandage? Mike Newton could have held your hand while they stitched you up. How the hell did Mike Newton end up in this conversation, I demanded. Mike Newton ended up in this conversation because Mike Newton would be a hell of a lot healthier for you to be with, he growled. I'd rather die than be with Mike Newton, I protested. I'd rather die than be with anyone but you. Don't be melodramatic. Edward is such a brat. I don't know what it is. You can disagree with me if you want, and I would totally understand. I love the spicier scenes in this series. I think that they're written in such a way that they're not overly dirty. It's not saying too much. It's saying just the right amount where you're like, oh, I'm getting into it. Like, okay, that's kind of good. And it's not super cringy. I feel like I've read so much worse. And I am really interested in the spicier scenes. So Bella says, I was thinking, since it's still my birthday, that I'd like you to kiss me again. Which is also so funny because imagine being in a relationship with someone and you can't just like kiss them all the time. It's not like they pick you up, you give them a kiss, they drop you off, you give them a kiss. You might just plant one on them randomly throughout the day. 5 times, 10 times, 20 times. You have to literally be like, hey, can we have a kiss today? Like, that's crazy. The kiss began much the same as usual. Edward was as careful as ever, and my heart began to overreact like it always did. And then something seemed to change. Suddenly his lips became much more urgent. His free hand twisted into my hair and held my face securely to his. And though my hands dangled in his hair too, and though I was clearly beginning to cross his cautious lines, for once he didn't stop me. When he stopped, it was abrupt. He pushed me away with gentle, firm hands. Something tugged at my memory, elusive on the edges. That's important, okay? We'll get back to that. It also says that he was breathless, which literally makes no sense because he doesn't breathe. Okay, moving on. I realized what his kiss had reminded me of. Here we go. This is what I was saying we were going to come back to. Last spring, when he'd had to leave me to throw James off my trail. Edward had kissed me goodbye, not knowing when or if we would see each other again. The kiss had the same almost painful edge for some reason I couldn't imagine. And that was kind of heartbreaking for me to read. I feel like it's the lack of control of it all. It's like you can sense things aren't right and like something bad's gonna happen, but you just can't do anything about it. Like you just try to hold on for dear life and it only hurts you more in the end to do that. And then the days following, she notices that like Edward is just acting so fucking weird. She learns that Jasper has been gone for a while and Alice went with him, trying to convince him to go to Denali. That's the other band of unique vampires, good ones like the Cullens. Tanya and her family lived. And then remember, Bella got a camera and a scrapbook from her parents. So she's like, all of a sudden, she's like, you know what? Great idea. Let me start recording my memories of, you know, my life here. And I remember her having a picture of Edward, her and Edward, I think, in the movie and not really understanding like the significance of it. Edward stood and lightly tossed Charlie the camera. I went to stand beside Edward, and the arrangement felt formal and strange to me. He put one hand on my shoulder, and I wrapped my arm more securely around his waist. I wanted to look at his face, but I was afraid to. I just feel like it's so brutal because, like, she could just feel like something was about to explode, and he was really letting her feel that. Like, she's like, how long is he gonna act like this? Like, you know, icing me out, being really silent and really weird and, like, not giving me affection and stuff. And it's just, like, kind of, like, mentally abusive at that point. Then when she does get the photos developed, the contrast between the two of us was painful. He looked like a god. I looked very average, even for a human, almost shamefully plain. I flipped the picture over with a feeling of disgust. Without looking at it too long, I folded it in half and stuck it under the metal tab, Edward side up, which we saw that there was, like, a crease through the photo in the movie as well. Like, she's so insecure, but then every man in Forks is, like, in love with her, so I don't really get it, but alright. And then this is where it gets really, really bad. Come for a walk with me, he suggested, in an unemotional voice, taking my hand. Bella, we're leaving. So Bella had already been thinking up until this point that they might have to leave because of the thing that happened with Jasper. So she's thinking, like, the family can stay here, and Bella and Edward, like, she would go with Edward somewhere for a while, for, like, everything to cool down so that she wasn't in people's way or whatever. Bella, it's time. How much longer could we stay in Forks after all? Carlisle can barely pass for 30, and he's claiming 33 now. We'd have to start over soon regardless. His answer confused me. Why did we have to leave if they were going? With the roll of nausea, I realized I'd misunderstood. This was hard to read, honestly. And I also keep seeing online, like, whenever I see, you know, the scene of Bella and she's super depressed and, like, the seasons are just passing by, the months are passing by, people being like, I thought she was so dramatic back then, like, that was so crazy, but I get it now. And I truly, truly get it too. Sometimes you just shut down when crazy stuff like that happens. Like, breakups are not, I mean, they're talked about a lot, but they're not talked about in the way of, like, how damaging they can actually be. It's almost like a death. Like, I would say breakups are pretty equivalent to deaths, especially if it's a no contact situation, which all of my breakups have been. And it's hard because you base your whole life around this person and then they're gone. But it's like, people don't view it that way. Like, they don't view it as if you had this tragic loss. It's like, oh, you know, they suck. Move on. Maybe they do suck, but, you know, it's not that easy. When you say we, I whispered, I mean my family and myself. I shook my head back and forth mechanically, trying to clear it. He waited without any sign of impatience. I took a few minutes before I could speak. Okay, I said, I'll come with you. Oh my god. Oh my god. I'm no good for you, Bella. This isn't about my soul, is it? Here we go again. I don't care, you can have my soul. I don't want it without you, it's yours already. Bella, I don't want you to come with me. You don't want me? You guys, this isn't the day. Oh my god, I was like, let's talk about new moon. I'm gonna, like, feel in such a better mood. And I'm like, what the fuck is this fucking year, dude? Like, you don't want me. No. Oh, I just think that her insecurity really plays a huge role in this, because anyone who's read the series knows why he said this, right? And all he's been saying this whole time, first of all, I'm not placing the blame on her. This isn't her fault. All he's been saying this whole time is, I love you so much, I cannot live without you. He's always worried about her safety. He's always threatening to leave her because he's dangerous to her, because he wants her to be safe. So now all of a sudden he's like, I'm not good for you. And she's not accepting that. So he's like, yeah, just kidding, I don't want you. It's just a weak excuse. It makes no sense. And she's so insecure that the second he finally agrees with her that, like, she isn't it for him, she's going to believe it. You're not good for me, Bella. He turned his earlier words around, and so I had no argument. How well I knew that I wasn't good enough for him. Get a fucking grip. I'm sorry. I would like to ask one favor though, if that's not too much. Fuck you. Yeah, that's too fucking much, you bitch. Anything, I vowed, my voice strong. Don't do anything reckless or stupid. Do you understand what I'm saying? Do you understand what I'm saying? Because if he doesn't give a fuck about you, why is he going to ask you to be safe? This just gave him away. Like, what are you talking about? Don't do anything fucking reckless. And I'll make you a promise in return, he said. I promise that this will be the last time you'll see me. I won't come back. I won't put you through anything like this again. You can go on with your life without any interference from me. It will be as if I never existed. He was gone. With shaking legs, ignoring the fact that my action was useless, I followed him into the forest. If I stopped looking for him, it was over. And honestly, I really understand that as well. When you're powerless in a situation, you're gonna do anything you can do to regain control over it. And it's like, for me, it was kind of like feeling sad about the situation. If I stopped feeling sad about it, it was over, right? And that's why, like, feeling better about a breakup is sometimes really scary, because it feels good to be over it and to move on. But at the same time, it's like a second end to it almost. When they were breaking up, he left her, like, in the forest, but her house was still in view. She started walking into the forest, like, so that she couldn't see her house anymore, trying to follow him. Finally, I tripped over something. It was black now. I had no idea what caught my foot, and I stayed down. I rolled onto my side so that I could breathe and curled up on the wet bracken. Perhaps there was no moon tonight. A lunar eclipse. A new moon. Remember when I said in the last video, when they said twilight, that I was like, I hope they do this in every book. We have new moon. They even said eclipse, but we have new moon. And we're gonna see if they say eclipse in eclipse. They fucking better. Then she hears someone in the forest. So she's like just laying on the forest floor for God knows how long. Bella, my name is Sam Yulee. He pulled me up from the ground and into his arms. She goes up to her room and the picture of Edward is gone. He took the fucking picture. And then I love this. This shows, like, and I love this because she did this. She wrote this before the movie came out. October, November, December, January. Finally, chapter 4, waking up. Oh my God. What a wonderful, I know it's just so simple, but what a wonderful way to show the emptiness that Bella felt. All that time that she was spending by herself, heartbroken, nothing happened to her, nothing mattered to her. And the way that they showcased that in the movie was also really, really well done. And I love that. Time passes, even when it seems impossible. Even when each tick of the second hand aches like the pulse of blood behind a bruise. It passes unevenly, in strange lurches and dragging lulls, but pass it does, even for me. Again, I think that's brilliantly well done, well said, and I don't normally love the language of this book. There's actually certain parts in this book where I'm just like, why did you say it like that? Why did you use this choice of words? Why did you repeat this word 20 times in the same paragraph? Like, that was pure poetry. Same as the pages with the months, pure poetry, done really well, really letting you feel the extent of her pain. All right, I think that's where I'm gonna stop the discussion for now, and I'm actually just gonna sit here, read for a little bit. We'll talk about some more of my thoughts later. Let's talk some more about new moon. So Bella has basically been catatonic, and Charlie decides that he's going to send her home to her mom. She's like, I didn't do anything. How can you do this to me? And he's like, that's literally the problem. You never do anything. Bella's like, I'll try harder. I'll make plans with Jessica or Angela. And Charlie says, I don't think I can live through seeing you try harder. I've never seen anyone trying so hard it hurts to watch. which is going a little bit too far in my opinion. I just want you to not be miserable. I think you'll have a better chance if you get out of Forks. We both know what's really going on here, Bella, and it's not good for you. It's been months, no calls, no letters, no contact. You can't keep waiting for him. But honestly, I feel like it's so real that her biggest fear now at this point is leaving Forks, because the only thing she has left of him is like the town. Then she's at school and she's trying to make plans with Jessica. It had been weeks, maybe months, since Jess had even greeted me when I passed her in the hall. I knew I had offended her with my antisocial behavior. Bella invites Jessica to the movies and they decide to see Dead End. She doesn't want to see any romance movies because she's afraid it's going to remind her of Edward and trigger her. So the movie they're seeing is a zombie movie. The scene kept cutting between the horrified face of the heroine and the dead, emotionless face of her pursuer back and forth as it closed the distance, and I realized which one resembled me the most. But it was ironic, all things considered, that in the end I would wind up as a zombie rather than a vampire. They're outside the movie theater. They're going to a McDonald's for dinner. Lounging against the wall beside the door were 4 men. This was a different road, a different night, but the scene was so much the same, like that time when Edward had saved her from the group of men who were pursuing her. Bella says, "I think I know them." And I thought this was phrased in a very interesting way that obviously we wouldn't know from the movie. Like in the movie it seems like she makes a conscious choice to do this, right? But in the book she says, "Why was I stepping dazed into the street? It seemed too coincidental that I should even be in Port Angeles with Jessica on a dark street." She's in a daze and she's doing it without thinking almost. I'm walking slowly forward without ever making the conscious decision to move my feet. I couldn't imagine anything in the world that there was left to be afraid of, not physically at least. One of the few advantages of losing everything. And this is something I feel to my very, very core. I feel like as I get older and the more things I lose or people I lose, like the less scary literally anything else feels, because who cares? Jessica's trying to get Bella to like stop doing this, and then Bella hears a familiar voice, soft like velvet, even though it was irate. It was his voice. She hears Edward because she's about to make a really stupid decision. She hears Edward. She walks up to the man and she's actually disappointed that this isn't the same man that had tried to hurt her the year before. The threat that had pulled me across the street had evaporated. These were not the dangerous men I remembered. They were probably nice guys. Safe. I lost interest. Hello? But she's kind of happy that she heard Edward's voice. The zombies, the adrenaline, or the hallucinations that were responsible, whichever, it had woken me up. For the first time in a long time, I didn't know what to expect in the morning. So then she's at work at Newton's store and they start hearing about this weird, huge bear. On all fours, it was taller than you, big as a house, and pitch black. More on that later. She also keeps thinking about what Edward had said about, he made the promise that it would be as if he had never existed. That was insanity. It was a promise that he could never keep. A promise that was broken as soon as he'd made it. Because obviously it could never be like that because of how in love with him she is. It made me feel silly for ever worrying about keeping my promise. Her promise, which was to keep herself safe. Where was the logic in sticking to an agreement that had already been violated by the other party? She's like driving around in a bad state, and she calls herself a menace on the roads in Forks, which is really funny because sometimes I'll say that, like, I've been a menace on the road today, like if I hit a curb or something. Like, is that from here? Like, she sees these 2 dirt bikes on the side of the road. Coincidence, or was it meant to be? Oh, she thinks about how mad Charlie would be because he'd specifically made her promise never to ride a motorcycle since he's a cop and he's obviously seen like really bad motorcycle accidents. She goes to ask if these bikes are still for sale and she's told that she can just take them. The guy's like, basically, take them, but they don't work. She starts thinking about it. She starts thinking about her truck and how it runs so great because Jacob Black had kept it in great shape. You know what? That's okay. I know someone who builds cars. And this is the beginning of Jacob Black, which is crazy because we're 129 pages in. I really loved the relationship building between Jacob and Bella. The Blacks' house was vaguely familiar, a small wooden place with narrow windows, the dull red paint making it resemble a tiny barn. Jacob's head peered out of the window before I could even get out of the truck, which is so funny. There's no Bella, where the hell have you been, Loca? But there should have been. I'd never seen his hair out of its usual ponytail before. It fell like black satin curtains on either side of his broad face. Jacob had grown into some of his potential in the last 8 months. He'd passed that point where the soft muscles of childhood hardened into solid, lanky build of a teenager. The tendons and veins had become prominent under the red-brown skin of his arms, his hands. His face was still sweet like I remembered it, though it had hardened too. The planes of his cheekbones sharper, the jaw squared off. All childish roundness gone. I realized that I was pleased to see him. This knowledge surprised me. I actually thought that was really, really cute. But as we will talk about more and more and more, the relationship between Bella and Jacob is confusing, and it's written that way on purpose, and I do have some problems with the way it's written. This being just the very start of it. Like, she is so excited to see him, but it's surprising. Like, why can't you just be excited to see him? I smiled back, and something clicked silently into place, like two corresponding puzzle pieces. I'd forgotten how much I really liked Jacob Black. And it's not that she can't just like being around him, it's that the way it's written has romantic undertones. So it's almost like tricking the audience into shipping them, but then still giving enough leeway for Bella's internal dialogue to be like, I love him as a friend. You know, I hope you understand what I'm saying here. You grew again, I accused in amazement. 6'5". And she's always talking about his big hands. He led the way, twisting his hair in his big hands as he walked. So then she asks Jacob what he knows about motorcycles. She also asks if he's legal yet and finds out that he's 16. She says sorry about your birthday because she missed it. And he said, don't worry about it, I missed yours. What are you, 40? Which was cute. Only a teenage boy would agree to this, deceiving both their parents while repairing dangerous vehicles using money meant for my college education. He didn't see anything wrong with that picture. Jacob was a gift from the gods. And I feel like there's just such a giant contrast in the way Jacob is written before the whole werewolf thing and the way he's written after. And I know that's on purpose because he does change as a person, but it's almost like too much to where like you don't even see the glimmer of who he was. Like, I really liked this like stress-free ray of sunshine version of him, and I feel like we don't even really get that version of him very much in the movie because the movie is more focused on the plot rather than character and relationship development, whereas the books are much more focused on developing these relationships and developing the characters. But we will obviously get to the shift in Jacob's character when we get there. Hi, let's talk. We're on chapter 6. Christmas mug. This is when we're first hearing about Jake's friends Quill and Embry, who do play a part later. Jacob asks Bella if they're boring her, and she says, nah, which just doesn't seem like something sweet little delicate Bella actually said. Anyway, she also says, I was enjoying myself. How strange. Yes, Bella, how strange that your depressed ass could have a little bit of fucking fun after we already established that you love being with Jake. All right. I giggled quietly. The sound made my eyes widen in wonder. I was laughing, actually laughing, and there wasn't even anyone watching. I felt so weightless that I laughed again, just to make the feeling last longer. And I noted that this seems like very genuine happiness, like the kind of happiness that makes her happy when she's not happy, you know? When she was with Edward, she was like maybe a little depressed, maybe didn't have much purpose in her life, and that's why like the whole vampire situation appealed to her so much. But she wasn't in a dark hole of depression, right? Jacob is able to genuinely pull her out of that without much effort. While she didn't seem that happy and giddy when she was with Edward, everything seemed so intense. And has Edward ever actually made her laugh? Like, they're just so intense all the time. And this was kind of a breath of fresh air for me. Like, it was very enjoyable to read about Bella and Jacob together. Jacob was simply a perpetually happy person, and he carried that happiness with him like an aura, sharing it with whoever was near him. Oh my God, reading this again, knowing what's gonna happen to him is actually kind of heartbreaking because I love this version of him. The long-haired, happy-go-lucky, totally chill man. Is New Moon my favorite Twilight book? I genuinely think it might be. And that's kind of crazy because this feels like the forgotten book where like not that much stuff happens. I would love to know everybody's favorite Twilight book. We also learned that she is 5'4", so she's pretty tiny. This is at Jacob's house, and Harry Clearwater is there with his wife Sue. He also has 2 children. Leah, a senior like her but a year older. She was beautiful in an exotic way. Are we serious? Are we actually serious with that? That's crazy. The way Stephenie Meyer wrote the Indigenous people in this book just wasn't it. I don't have enough knowledge to present like an opinion on it, like without doing research. And that's not really what this video is. It's just me reacting to the book, but I did want to call attention to that because it is a real thing. Seth was 14. He hung on Jacob's every word with idolizing eyes. Bella has another dream, so she keeps dreaming that she's in the forest searching for Edward and just going deeper and deeper, deeper into the forest. But this time she has a dream that Sam Yulee is there, the man who had pulled me from the forest floor that night I couldn't bear to think of consciously. The man's dark eyes had been surprisingly unfriendly, filled with some secret he didn't seem inclined to share. So there is some secret that Bella is guessing at, but can't entirely figure out what it is. Maybe that was because when I didn't look directly at him, his shape seemed to shiver and change in my peripheral vision. Also, can we talk about her fucking dreams? Because remember in Twilight, the first book, she has this dream where Edward is fighting a wolf, and the wolf is protective of Bella, but Bella is protective of Edward. I believe this was after Jacob told Bella about the stories of his family or his tribe. So is she just like, you know how all the vampires, or most of the vampires, have like their own little special power? Like, does Miss Bella have some vision situation happening where she can just like, she's just all knowing, like she can just figure shit out in her dreams? Because something like this happens later on as well, but she's literally guessing at the fact that he shape shifts into another being through her dreams, not knowing that he is a werewolf, which is fucking weird. Angela and Ben were going to go for a picnic Saturday, but they changed their minds because when they were halfway there, they saw something strange in the woods. We think it was a bear. It was black anyway, but it seemed too big. Everybody is basically saying, you're crazy, but Bella is like, no, you're not crazy because I keep hearing people talking about this big bear as well. Everybody is super, super shocked to hear her talk because she's basically been a ghost for months, like sitting at the table with her friends but not saying anything. But Angela thanks her for sticking up for her. Are you okay? This was why I'd picked Jessica over Angela for the Girls' Night movie. Angela was too perceptive. Not completely, I admitted, but I'm a little bit better. I'm glad, she said. I've missed you. And honestly, I think we were stripped of this relationship between her and Angela because I just think it could have been something really, really nice. And this is also why I do appreciate Bella's relationship with Alice, because she just seems like, I don't know, she kind of bypassed all of her friends at school to become best friends with Jacob after Edward left. Like, but then she makes a big deal over like needing a girls' night, but it just doesn't seem like she easily makes friends with girls or can keep those friendships, and has a lot of like girl haters. So I just think this could have been really cool if we saw more of her and Angela, but we really don't. We also find out that it's January 19th and it was a year ago yesterday that she had her first day here. Nothing's changed much, Angela muttered. I know, I agreed. I was just thinking the same thing. So Bella starts driving somewhere suspicious. I continued to drive slowly down the overgrown lane, twisting through the trees that arched over me like a green living tunnel. I just thought that was poetic. Like, that description was really beautiful, and I really liked that. Those precious moments when I could hear him again were an irresistible lure. I had to find some way to repeat the experience, or maybe the better word was episode. I was hoping that deja vu was the key. So I was going to his home, a place I hadn't been since my ill-fated birthday party so many months ago. I always think about, like, after something bad has happened, I think back, oh, what was the last moment before? Like, she never thought when she was leaving his house that that would be the last time she was there, right? The last time you're friends with someone. Like, oh, where was the last place we had a conversation? Like, it's just so eerie how you wouldn't know in the moment that that would be the last time. I know people always talk about the last time we went outside and played as kids. Devastating. Like, how is there just a lot? How does it just stop abruptly? Bella tells Jacob, like, let me know if I'm bothering you. I know I'm here a lot. He said if I had any brains, I'd drag it out a little bit. Why? Bella, if I told you that I couldn't fix these bikes, what would you say? I would say, that's too bad, but I'll bet we could figure out something else to do. If we get really desperate, we could even do homework. Which is so untrue, because she literally only went there for him to fix the motorcycles. If he had been like, I can't fix the motorcycles, she would have gone somewhere else to fix the motorcycles and not started hanging out with him all the time. I'm not saying she doesn't end up loving his friendship and end up loving him as a person or whatever, but even then, it's not like him as a person. It's like she loves being around him because she finally feels better. She always talks about how when she's with him, the hole in her heart starts to close up, go away, like she feels better. So in the end, it's still a selfish exchange, but that relationship wouldn't have grown if he hadn't wanted to fix the motorcycles, and I will stand by that. Mike asks her to go to the movies, like maybe this Friday with me. Like a date, I asked. If you want, but it doesn't have to be like that. I don't date, I said slowly. He just won't give it up. And people with Bella are so persistent. It's not like people just look at her and are like, oh yeah, that would be fun. They're like, no, I need this woman. Like, this is the woman of my dreams and I am obsessed with her. It's weird, quite frankly. So then Jacob shows up at her house. The bikes are done. He's excited about it. He is so kind and so healthy for her. I mean, other than the building dangerous bike situation, but like I said before, a breath of fresh air. Like, this is beautiful. They're driving down to La Push and they see people on the cliffs and someone throws himself off the edge. No, I shouted, stomping down on the brake. Jacob laughed and I spun around to stare at him wildly. How could he be so calloused? So cold-blooded, which was an absolutely diabolical description of this man for obvious reasons. They're just cliff diving, Bella. Recreation. La Push doesn't have a mall, you know. He was teasing, but there was a strange note of irritation in his voice, which is very interesting and noteworthy because he's normally very calm and very patient with Bella. Jake, you have to take me cliff diving. Sometimes you're a little strange, Bella. So then he starts talking about the people who are cliff diving, who are called the La Push Gang. They're like hall monitors gone bad, Jake says. There was this guy up from somewhere, big guy too, scary looking. Word got around that he was selling something illegal to kids. And Sam Yuli and his disciples, I'm pretty sure that was the word used in the movie as well, ran him off our land. They're all about our land and tribe pride. It's getting ridiculous. The worst part is that the council takes them seriously. Embry also heard from Leah Clearwater that they call themselves protectors or something like that. Ugh, the lore is getting so juicy. He also tells her that Sam treats him special. He looks at me like he's waiting for something, like I'm going to join his stupid gang someday. You don't have to join anything. My voice was angry. Bella gets very, very worked up about this situation, and I'm not sure why so early on she does. I understand later on when things get a bit real, but it was kind of strange in my opinion. Embry, his friend, missed a week of school, but he was never home when we tried to see him, and when he came back, he looked freaked out, terrified. Quill and I both tried to get him to tell us what was wrong, but he wouldn't talk to either one of us. Out of nowhere, Embry's hanging out with Sam and the rest of them. He was out on the cliffs today. So it's like one by one, the boys in this town are joining this weird group. I do remember them having a conversation kind of like this, but I don't think my brain really comprehended that when I watched the movie. I think it kind of just felt like it was an established group of boys that Jacob eventually joined, rather than learning that it was kind of like a one-by-one scary situation for everyone. I threw my arms around him instinctively, wrapping them around his waist and pressing my face against his chest. He was so big. I felt like I was a child hugging a grown-up. Okay, someone made a comment on my last video on Twilight, because I said, let me know the differences you noticed as an adult. Someone said how the way Bella is written is very triggering for EDs and stuff like that, and I totally agree. There are so many times in these books where she skips a meal, or she's just written as being very small. Like, it's one thing to say that she's 5'3" or 5'4". That's, you know, a description of who her character is. But it's quite another thing to describe her as being childlike next to a man who is much younger than her. And it's meant to show how big Jacob is, considering we know who he's going to become, right? But it also infantilizes her and makes her seem so small. And it just rubs me the wrong way as an adult, for sure. We stood like that for a moment, and it didn't upset me. In fact, I felt comforted by the contact. This whole friendship relationship with Jake is so willy-nilly, so back and forth. Like, for her to say, it didn't upset me, it makes it seem like she is interested in him. She is comforted by him. This was friendship, and Jacob was very warm. So then it's like, okay, we know that you are getting invested in this relationship, but remember, this is only friendship. She only sees him as a friend. I just think it could have been written as a platonic friendship, or it could have been written as a potential love interest, you know? She could have loved Jake as more than a friend and still not wanted to be with him because of her heartbreak. That's a valid enough reason. It doesn't have to be so complicated where she jumps back and forth between loving him and thinking about being with him, which we'll get to later, and just wanting him as a friend. I think it's written very toxic. It's not fair to him, and he's a little bit too persistent too, which is also a little bit weird. The whole relationship becomes unhealthy, and that sucks because I genuinely love their friendship, and I think that in more ways than not, he's very healthy in terms of like being around Bella and the way they talk and laugh and joke with each other. But then it's taken too far to the point where I can't even condone it anymore. His fingers touched my hair, soft and tentative. Well, it was friendship for me. And see, she knows how he feels even before he states it outright. But this doesn't stop her because she doesn't really care at the end of the day. She is selfish in needing Jacob for comfort. And as a kid, that's where I'm gonna stop for right now, but as a kid, the messiness of this felt very fun, I guess. Like, I was Team Jacob 100%. And reading this again, I was like, wait, maybe I'm Team Jacob. But when you get to the end of this book and Eclipse, it just ruins it. And I think it's very interesting how when people think of Twilight or the Twilight Saga series, they think of this relationship triangle between Edward, Bella, and Jacob. But there really wasn't much between Bella and Jacob other than friendship physically. Bella has lots of thoughts about the situation, which we will get into later, but nothing really happens between them. So it's just crazy that this is the main thing that we think about, and that there was even a Team Edward and a Team Jacob, because it was never a question. And Bella says this straight up in the book too, like, there is no competition between them, because regardless of how she feels about Jacob, it doesn't matter, because she will always love Edward more. What a great book. Where were we? Let's figure it out. Christmas mug. Chapter 8, Adrenaline. This is when They're riding the motorcycles for the first time. So Bella gets on the motorcycle and she hears Edward's voice, which was the whole point. Like, this is why she wanted to do something crazy. "This is reckless and childish and idiotic, Bella," the velvet voice fumed. "The bike bucked under me, yanking me forward and then collapsing to the ground half on top of me." So this is when she's figured out that she literally will only hear his voice if she almost loses her life, pretty much. Jacob pulls her up and asks if she hit her head. "Bella, you've got a huge cut on your forehead and it's gushing blood," says Jacob. "Oh, I'm so sorry, Jacob. I pushed hard against the gash, as if I could force the blood back inside my head. Why are you apologizing for bleeding?" Which is kind of how it happened in the movie. He pulled off his t-shirt, already spotted with blood, and threw it to me. Jacob brings him home and she realizes that he was still shirtless. Jacob says, "Don't worry, it's chill. It's not that cold." Very suspicious. Bella is thinking like, "Hey, this is weird. It's fucking freezing out." But he looked comfortable enough. "He had one arm over the back of my seat, though I was huddled up to keep warm." Jacob really did look older than 16. Not quite 40, but maybe older than me. His skin was such a pretty color and made me jealous. "What?" he asked, suddenly self-conscious. "Nothing, I just hadn't realized before. Did you know you're sort of beautiful?" So she does call him beautiful in the book, but it's not right when she hits her head, it's afterwards. "You hit your head pretty hard, didn't you?" So Jacob's like, "We should probably cool it with the motorcycles." She's realizing that Bella is insane. He doesn't really know why she's going to these lengths to like do something so dangerous. So she suggests, "Okay, let's do something much more chill than that. Let's go hiking. There's a little meadow, the most beautiful place. I don't know if I could track it down again on my own." The fucking meadow. She thinks that if she goes to the meadow, a place she's only been with Edward, she's gonna hear his voice. And then they're joking about the bears and like how this could be kind of dangerous what they're doing. Bella says, "Maybe we'll get lucky tomorrow and something will eat us." Jacob says, "Bears don't want to eat people. We don't taste that good. Of course, you might be an exception. I'd bet you would taste good." "Thanks so much," I said, looking away. He wasn't the first person to tell me that. Okay, there's two layers to this, right? First of all, how crazy on the nose is that he would say, "I bet you'd taste good," because of all the vampire insinuations with Edward and his family gonna eat her or whatever, right? And then also her blood being the best blood in existence for Edward, and nobody's blood could be better than hers. But okay, let's put all of that aside, right? On a very simple, very basic level, "I bet you'd taste good" is crazy. It's crazy. Stop it. And for her to just be like, "Oh, thanks so much," like sarcastically, like as if that wasn't a crazy thing to fucking say to your best friend. So then Bella's trying to get out of this like date scenario. So she says, "I'm going to a movie Friday. I've been promising my cafeteria crowd that I would go forever. You'll come too, right?" Goes up to Mike. "Hey Mike, are you free Friday night?" He looked up, his blue eyes instantly hopeful. "Yeah, I am. You want to go out?" I worded my reply carefully. It is so crazy that she is just dodging men left and right, left and fucking right. Wherever she looks, it's somebody trying to date her, and not only date her, but like treat her right, like make her his entire fucking world. I was thinking about getting a group together to go see Crosshairs. Little by little, one by one, people are dropping off and not coming to the plans. Eric and Katie already had plans. It was their 3-week anniversary or something. Eric and Katie, oh, you know what? This is why I was fucking confused. Because in the movie, Eric and Angela get together, right? Eric and Angela. There's no Ben in the movie. I'm like, Ben and Angela are together in the book. Who the fuck is Ben? Oh my God. That's what was bothering me. In the end, only Angela and Ben, and of course Jacob, were able to go. Mike asks, "Are you sure you don't want to see Tomorrow and Forever instead?" "I want to see Crosshairs," I insisted. "I'm in the mood for action. Bring on the blood and guts." Also can't picture Movie Bella saying that, but okay. So Jacob sees Mike and He says, "Oh, I remember this guy. The one who thought you were his girlfriend. Is he still confused?" Bella says, "Some people are hard to discourage." Yikes. Then again, Jacob said thoughtfully, "Sometimes persistence pays off." Which I thought was just so icky. Like, if you know that she's making a dig at you there, maybe back off. Like, she doesn't want you. Ben calls. Angela was sick with the stomach flu, and he didn't feel like coming without her. Just the three of us, Mike and Jacob and me, together for the evening. Jacob was his normal sunny self. Oh, this is also the night where everything changes. Literally everything goes down. Jacob was his normal sunny self, chattering away until I'd forgotten Mike was sulking silently in the back. And then Mike changed his strategy. He leaned forward, resting his chin on the shoulder of my seat. His cheek almost touched mine. I shifted away, turning my back towards the window. Ew. When we got to the theater, Jacob handed me a $10 bill. "What's this?" I objected. "I'm not old enough to see this one," he reminded me. Because he's fucking 16. I know, obviously a 2-year age gap is not weird, but for me, a 16-year-old and an 18-year-old, I just feel like those 2 years are so developmentally different. And they really jump through hoops in this book to show all the reasons why Jacob is so much older, and it's not weird because they have this like ongoing argument about like, "Oh, well, I'm technically 40 because I know how to fix bikes and this and that and this," and Bella's like, "Oh, well, I'm older than you because I have 2 years on you and I'm good at this and this and this." And I don't know, it just seems like quite juvenile. And then when we get to the whole like transformation wolf thing, it's like, "Oh, well, I basically had a growth spurt worth 8 years, so I'm actually 25 technically, even though I'm 16. And it's like, but he's still 16. Even if his body is 25, he's still 16 mentally, so it's still a little weird. Bella thinks, "How am I ever going to fight the blurring lines of our relationship when I enjoy being with him so much?" And I do sort of feel for her, because if she truly just loves Jacob as a friend, right? But he keeps like pushing these romantic feelings onto her, that's not fair to her. That's confusing, and that's a little bit creepy. And I totally understand it from that perspective. And I understand how she could get a little bit confused here and there. I don't think Bella is really the problem, but I do think the writing is a problem here and there. Mike gets sick. Bella runs after him. Jacob says that he's gonna come too. Jacob goes in to the bathroom and sees that Mike is throwing up and comes back out. What a marshmallow. I love that. "You should hold out for someone with a stronger stomach. Someone who laughs at the gore that makes weaker men vomit," which is so funny considering Jacob was just laughing during the movie. So I wonder who he could be referring to. Jacob puts his arm around her. "Jake," I protested, leaning away. He dropped his arm, not looking bothered at all by the minor rejection. He reached out and took my hand firmly, wrapping his other hand around my wrist when I tried to pull away again. Where did he get the confidence from? So I guess it's trying to show that the more he's becoming a wolf, the more strong and confident he's becoming in himself. Like, we're supposed to think, why is his personality changing a little bit? And I think that's true. I don't think he was quite as persistent in the beginning, but I think that could have been a natural development with like them becoming more codependent on each other, and like him being able to see that Bella has some sort of feelings for him, even if it is just like a friendship developing in her eyes. There was nothing left in my life at this point that was more important than Jacob Black, but he seemed determined to ruin everything. And so this is where it becomes unhealthy, right? Like, she can love him as a friend, she can want him as a friend, but he's the only thing in your life that is important because he's the only thing distracting you from Edward. And if Edward is the big love of your life and the only person who can distract you is this other man who has feelings for you and treats you basically like a girlfriend without having the label, that's a problem, right? Because I feel like it wouldn't have been the same for her if Jacob wasn't madly in love with her. If they were just strictly friends and he didn't have these feelings for her, I don't think she would feel as intensely for him because he just wouldn't be obsessed with her, right? "You like me, right?" he asks. "You know I do. Better than that Joker puking his guts out in there?" He gestured toward the bathroom door. "Yes," I sighed. If you don't like him, don't phrase it as if you fucking do. Better than any of the other guys you know? Better than the girls too, I pointed out. But that's all he said, and it wasn't a question. Let's get right to it. Yes, I whispered. Okay, period. As long as you like me the best, and you think I'm good looking, sort of. I'm prepared to be annoyingly persistent. Like, that's not cute. If she's saying no, she's verbalizing, no, I'm not interested. We're not going to be more than friends. This is like a consent issue at this point. Like, ugh. I think it's kind of like, why can't I love him? Because he would be the perfect partner for me, but I just don't feel that way about him. He says, I'm not giving up. I've got loads of time. You shouldn't waste it on me, I said, though I wanted him to. Though I wanted him to. Jacob drives them home, and Bella notices that he's very warm, like he's burning up with a fever. So then Jacob starts acting kind of weird, and he's like, yeah, I think you're right about the fever. I'm not feeling well. But then he says, there's something I want to tell you, Bella, but I think it's gonna sound kind of corny. I won't ever let you down, I promise, that you can always count on me. But you know that, right? I would never, ever hurt you. Remember this moment. I would never, ever hurt you. Oh my God. This part threw me. Okay, listen to this. How much I wished that Jacob Black had been born my brother, my flesh and blood brother, so I would have some legitimate claim on him that still left me free of any blame now. But again, it would not be the same if they were siblings, because he would not treat her like he was in love with her. And if she was not getting this girlfriend treatment, I don't think she would feel like the hole in her chest was being fixed. It's so fucking weird. Even more, I had never meant to love him. So this is what I'm saying about the writing being confusing on purpose to confuse the viewer. Bella is very adamant, out loud and in her mind, that she only sees him as a brother, a best friend. But then, even more, I had never meant to love him, but I needed Jacob now. Needed him like a drug. And yes, this still could be platonic love, right? But the way it's written is specifically meant to make readers be like, oh wait, maybe she isn't a Jacob. Maybe they do have a chance. Maybe they are gonna be together. And I remember when I was first reading it, I was just flipping the pages, like so desperate and excited for them to get together, and it doesn't happen. Also, the line, I needed him like a drug, reminds me of the first Twilight when Edward says, you're like my personal brand of, you know. So it's kind of like a mirror, like the way Bella was for Edward is kind of how Jacob is for Bella. He thought time and patience would change me, and though I knew he was dead wrong, I also knew that I would let him try. Like the self-awareness. I would let him try. Okay, sure, okay. He was my best friend. I would always love him, and it would never, ever be enough. Jacob goes home and promises to call her when he gets home, but doesn't. So she calls, and Billy answers. Billy, it's me, Bella. Did Jake make it home yet? He left here about 20 minutes ago. He's here, Billy said tonelessly. He was too sick to call. Billy sounded distant. Bella's like, oh, I can come over and help. He's like, no, we're fine. Stay at your place. The way he said it was almost rude. And then Bella ends up having the stomach flu. So it's like everyone has a stomach flu. Finally, Jacob calls her. I don't think I have the same thing you did. Don't you have the stomach flu? I asked, confused. No, this is something else. Every part of me hurts. What can I do, Jake? Nothing. You can't come here. He was abrupt. It reminded me of Billy the other night. Call me when you feel better. Right, he agreed, and his voice had a strange, bitter edge. Wait for me to call, he said. All right, that's where I'm gonna stop for now. This is such a long book. It's crazy that this is such a long book when Edward literally wasn't even in it. I needed a break from being in the house, and I got a green tea, but I put a spearmint tea bag in it as well, because I don't think Tim sells spearmint tea, but I just wanted to be safe. Anyway, I wanted a coffee, but I fear I drink way too much coffee. I already had 2 huge cups of coffee at home today. I don't think that much caffeine is good for me, so. First of all, Jacob said he was gonna call when he was feeling better. The first line of this chapter is, Jacob didn't call. Period. Billy says supposedly that Jacob has mono and he is not allowing visitors. Meanwhile, Charlie is worried about Harry Clearwater. I think he had a heart attack or something. Bella's thinking, why do I feel so suspicious, like I don't believe Billy's story? Maybe because they're acting hella fucking suspicious. She calls again. Billy answers, says Jacob's not there. Oh, so he's feeling better then. It wasn't mono after all, just some other virus. So then Bella's thinking, oh, so this whole week apart has been traumatizing for me, but Jacob's doing just fine and he's not rushing to call me or anything. Again, it's so frustrating to me because she is so insecure about herself. I understand why she would jump to these conclusions, I guess, but it just doesn't also make sense. Like, how does he go from being like, I am going to be so persistent with you until you decide to be with me, to, I don't think I'm gonna see you again. I don't think I'm gonna call you. I think I'm gonna be fucking rude. Charlie starts talking about another missing hiker and doesn't want Bella to like go out hiking anymore, but she goes out anyway. It was the same place that I was instantly sure. So she found the meadow on her own. It was the same place, but it didn't hold what I had been searching for. There was nothing special about this place without him. So she feels sick. She decides to leave, and suddenly a figure stepped out from the trees to the north, some 30 paces away. Laurent! I cried in surprised pleasure. I don't know why she was so happy to see him. It's like, I know he didn't hurt Bella in book 1, and he ended up leaving James and Victoria when it seemed like they were gonna fight or whatever. But that doesn't make him good. Her initial reaction should have been fear, and it's really fucking weird that it wasn't. And I feel like Stephenie Meyers goes so far to write Bella into this, like, quirky character that, like, oh, she's so weird and her brain is broken, that it just goes too far sometimes. Of course, he must have changed because he'd gone to Alaska to live with the other civilized coven there. The meadow was a magic place again. A darker magic than I'd expected, to be sure, but magic all the same. There was the connection I'd sought, the proof, however remote, that somewhere in the same world where I lived, he did exist. So because she's seeing a vampire, this is proof that vampires exist, Edward did exist, and it's not like he never existed, as he promised. Laurent says, when I found the Cullen place empty, I thought they'd moved on. I'm surprised they left you behind. Weren't you sort of a pet of theirs? Also valid! I didn't think about this until this line, but if Edward was so worried about Bella's safety, where he would literally abandon her and leave and go somewhere else, he didn't think about possibly the other vampires who knew of her existence, like that they would come for her. Then she'd realized that he has red eyes. Did they visit often, he asked. Lie, the beautiful velvet voice whispered anxiously from my memory. Now and again, she states. They talk about Tanya and Irina and how Laurent really liked them, but the restrictions were difficult and sometimes he cheats. And she asks him if Victoria ever found him. He says, yes, I actually came here as a favor to her. She won't be happy about this, about me killing you. She wanted to save that part for herself. She's sort of put out with you, Bella. Me? I squeaked. I know, it seems a little backward to me too, but James was her mate, and your Edward killed him. She thought it more appropriate to kill you than Edward. Fair turnabout, mate for mate. I didn't imagine you would be so easy to get to. So maybe her plan was flawed. Apparently it wouldn't be the revenge she imagined, since you must not mean very much to him if he left you here unprotected. Which is not only true, but a dagger to the fucking heart. Imagine hearing that. So now Bella is thinking that she's going to die and it doesn't matter if she thinks about him anymore. So she thinks, Edward, I love you. And if I'm not mistaken, she says that out loud in the movie. I also don't know if the delusion thing was explained well enough in the movie. Maybe I'm just dumb, but I just remember thinking like, oh, like this is like some sort of magic thing where like she can hear him, but she was really just like literally losing her mind. I'm sure that's fairly obvious. I don't think I've seen New Moon in a really long time. Love this part. Then I saw it. A huge black shape eased out of the trees, quiet as a shadow, and stalked deliberately toward the vampire. I was too amazed to feel relief when Laurent started slowly backing away from me. I don't believe it, he said. It was enormous, as tall as a horse, but thicker, much more muscular. The bear, only it wasn't a bear at all. I never imagined a wolf could get so big. Why was Laurent retreating? Granted, the wolf was monstrous in size, but it was just an animal. What reason would a vampire have for fearing an animal? Another two gigantic beasts prowled silently into the meadow. One was a deep gray, the other brown, neither one quite as tall as the first. I wished briefly that Laurent would get on with it and crush the wolf pack. It should be so simple for him. I guess that between the two choices before me, being eaten by wolves was almost certainly the worst option. The wolf closest to me, the reddish-brown one, turned its head slightly to the sound of my gasp. Remember that. For some reason, this wolf is really interested in Bella. I suddenly thought of Jacob, again with gratitude. At least I'd come here alone. So she's thinking of Jacob because she's like, oh, I'm glad I didn't drag Jacob to this meadow with me. But she thinks of Jacob right after she looks into the eyes of this specific wolf. Laurent spins around and disappears into the trees. The wolves were after him in a second. Why would they pass up something warm-blooded and weak like me to chase after Laurent? So in her head, nothing can defeat vampires. So it's strange that Laurent is fearing these animals and running away. And for her, these wolves are the problem. These wolves are the reason why all of these people have been going missing in Forks and winding up dead. So why would they run after a cold-blooded vampire rather than a human, which obviously the animals would be able to sense? That's what she's thinking. So now she's thinking about the fact that Victoria is after her, which she hadn't considered before this. We're 250 pages into this book, and it's only now that Victoria is a problem. To calm myself, I fantasized the impossible. I imagined the big wolves catching up to Laurent in the woods and massacring the indestructible immortal the way they would any normal person. If the wolves got him, then he couldn't tell Victoria I was here all alone. If he didn't return, maybe she'd think the Cullens were still protecting me. My good vampires were never coming back. Oh, it's kind of sad, honestly. Alright, I'm done for now, only because I'm freezing and I don't want to record with my car on because I feel like it'll be too loud. I'm also getting kind of hungry. As the day gets cold, my heart gets colder, I lose my soul. I'm back, bitches, but I actually need to stop talking soon if I don't want this video to be 3 hours long. But let me know what kind of length you guys are looking for. Like, I could easily talk for 3 hours long. I just feel like no one's gonna want to watch it. The first one I posted was over an hour. I feel like this one's probably gonna be around 2 hours long. Let me know what you guys are willing to listen to or what you would like. Like, do you like really long videos or not? I need to know. It's kind of unclear like what type of person Bella was before Edward and before Jacob, because all of her thoughts, all of her energy revolves around men. The second she met Edward, it was all she could think about. Edward leaves, still all she could think about, but Jake replaced that, you know? Who was Bella before? Nobody knows. Now she's like connecting the dots, trying to figure out what is up with Jacob, and she thinks everything goes back to Sam Yulee. She remembers how Jacob was saying how Sam really wanted him to be a part of his gang, and all of his friends were slowly joining, so she's like, he is the cause of everything. On her way to La Push, she runs into Quill, which is one of Jacob's friends, and she realizes that he has grown a lot. He tells Bella that Jacob never leaves Sam's side anymore, and he's really worried about it. He's also worried that he's gonna be next. Then she finally sees Jacob. Jacob had changed radically in the last week since I'd seen him. The first thing I noticed was his hair. His beautiful hair was all gone, cropped quite short, covering his head with an inky gloss like black satin. And this is when I fell in love with Jacob Black in the movie when I was a kid. The planes of his face seemed to have hardened subtly, tightened, aged. His neck and his shoulders were different too, thicker somehow. His hands, where they gripped the window frame, looked enormous, with the tendons and veins more prominent under the russet skin. But the physical changes were insignificant. It was his expression that made him almost completely unrecognizable. The open, friendly smile was gone, like the hair. The warmth in his dark eyes altered to a brooding resentment that was instantly disturbing. There was a darkness in Jacob now, like my son had imploded. His eyes were tense and angry. Very depressing. I wanted to be fierce and deadly, someone no one would dare mess with, someone who would scare Sam Yulee silly. I wanted to be a vampire. I don't even have anything to say about that. She also notes that he's not awkward anymore. Like, she would always describe him as being so tall and big that when he walked around, he would trip or he would just seem very awkward because he, like, grew so fast that he wasn't used to it. But now, like, he is smooth as butter. So he says that he knows Bella is thinking that this is like some cult situation because of the conversation they'd had before, but Jacob was way off, though he cannot tell her what is actually happening. It wasn't like I thought it was. This isn't Sam's fault. He's helping me as much as he can. And then he says, if you want to blame someone, why don't you point your finger at those filthy, reeking bloodsuckers that you love so much? So this is the first ever mention that Jacob knows anything about this world of vampires, and she is confused. What are you blaming them for? For existing, he hissed. Go home, Bella. I can't hang out with you anymore. Are you breaking up with me? The words were all wrong, but they were the best way I could think to phrase what I was asking. I'm sorry that I couldn't before. I wish I could change how I feel about you, Jacob. I was desperate, reaching, stretching the truth so far that it curved nearly into the shape of a lie. Maybe I would change, I whispered. Maybe if you gave me some time. Just don't quit on me now, Jake. I can't take it. And this is so mean. Like, I know he's not being nice to her, and I know she's feeling desperate to keep him, but to, like, give him false hope just shows, like, how desperate she is to not be alone. Like, she needs to have somebody in her life distracting her or she's not going to be okay. And I know she doesn't want to lose Jacob as a friend, but it just feels like it's coming from more of a selfish perspective rather than her genuinely being worried about him at this point. Like, she's more worried about losing him. His face went from anger to agony in a second. One shaking hand reached out toward me. No, don't think like that, Bella, please. Don't blame yourself. Don't think this is all your fault. This one is all me. I swear it's not about you. It's not you, it's me, I whispered. There's a new one. Then she has a dream about Jacob. The russet color of his skin leached away, leaving his face pale white like bone. His eyes turned to gold, and then crimson, and then back to gold again. His short hair twisted in the breeze, turning bronze where the wind touched it. I reached for him, but he took a step away, raising his hands like a shield, and then Edward vanished. I found this dream to be very interesting because, yeah, she keeps having dreams about people, like, showing who they really are. So it's kind of like she's sensing that something is off with Jacob. Obviously, he's not a vampire, but he is turning into something else, which is a wolf, right? And she's also turning Jacob into Edward, showing that, like, she is reliving Edward leaving all over again. But then she hears something sharp scraping along the length of her window with a high-pitched squeal like fingernails against the glass. Jacob is clinging precariously to the top of the spruce that grew in the middle of Charlie's little front yard. He says, I'm trying to keep my promise, and she's worried that he's going to hurt himself, but he just, like, swiftly enters her room through the window, much like how Edward normally does. This pops up in my Snapchat memories every year. Literally, like, 10 years ago, I was watching this movie, and I recorded that little, like, swing he did into her room, and I was like, oh my god, this is the hottest shit I've ever seen in my life. Like, I was ridiculous. He says, I came to apologize. She says, I don't accept. And I just love how she's so sassy in the book, and we don't really see that side of her in the movie. He says that he's sorry, but he can't explain as much as he wishes that he could explain. Look, Bella, haven't you ever had a secret that you couldn't tell anyone? Duh. Something you felt like you had to keep from Charlie, from your mom? Something you won't even talk about with me, not even now? So he is definitely referring to the vampire thing. And she's like, yeah, why does he all of a sudden seem to know about my secret that I haven't told anyone about? I don't know why you came here, Jacob, if you're going to just give me riddles instead of answers. That part kills me, he said abruptly, is that you already knew. I already told you everything. She already knows. I can't tell you, but if you guessed it, remember the first day we met on the beach in La Push? You told me scary stories, the legends. Yes, think hard, he told me. Maybe we'll come back to you. I guess I understand why you only remember the one story. So she's remembering the vampire stories, but not the werewolf stories at this point. And she's like, why is he deciding to believe all this vampire lore now when he didn't believe it when he told me? I wonder why. Then he says, I am in this for life. It's a life sentence. He also says that he's not supposed to see Bella and that he's going to have to let the wolf pack? No, he doesn't say wolf pack. He is gonna have to let his friends know. You don't have to tell them anything I hissed. All the same, I will. Which even when I read this back, I was like, what does that mean? Why is he telling them if he doesn't want them to know? Obviously, we will get back to this. She has another dream. This girl literally can't think through anything when she's awake. She can only understand what's happening through her dreams. She's in the forest in La Push near the beach. Jacob's there. Run, Bella, you have to run. The abrupt wave of deja vu was so strong it nearly woke me. It was because I'd been here before in another dream. This was the dream I'd had the night I'd walked with Jacob on the beach. The first night I knew that Edward was a vampire. Remember? She had a dream of Edward and a wolf, and she wants to protect Edward, and the wolf's trying to protect her. Yes, I love that Stephenie Meyer thought this through literally in the first book and put in those little Easter eggs. In Jacob's place was an enormous red-brown wolf. This was not the same wolf that I dreamed of in another life. This was the great russet wolf I'd stood half a foot from in the meadow just a week ago. This wolf was gigantic, monstrous, and bigger than a bear. So now she's putting two and two together that the one wolf that had looked at her when she was in the field with Laurent was Jacob. And she remembers what Jacob had said about the legend claiming that they had descended from wolves. The cold ones are the natural enemies of the wolf. Well, not the wolf really, but the wolves that turn into men, like our ancestors. You would call them werewolves. Werewolves have enemies? Only one. Then she woke up. Werewolf, I gasped. Real. Did this mean every possible fairy tale was grounded somewhere in absolute truth? I would also really love to know this. Are there more? Like, are there fairies? Are there mermaids? Are there sirens? In this world, does only vampires and werewolves exist? Doesn't seem probable. I'm confused. A small, dry voice in the back of my mind asked me what the big deal was. Hadn't I already accepted the existence of vampires long ago, and without all the hysterics that time? Yeah, so even she is pointing out the fact that she is so shooken up about the werewolf thing. Like, she doesn't want to believe it's true. She thinks it's insane, but she had accepted the vampire thing so easily, which was really weird of her. Not gonna lie. Now she is jumping to the conclusion that all of the people that have been going missing in the town lately are due to the werewolves and not vampires, because everyone keeps seeing these bears, remember? Jacob was my best friend, but was he a monster too? She's like, Carlisle and his gang had chose to be better people, but the werewolves had chosen a different path. Clearly. She goes to Jacob's house and goes into his tiny closet of a room. His feet hung off one end of his bed and his head off the other, which is kind of depressing. She tries to warn him about the rangers and the hunters, and he says, don't worry, we already know about it. And he says that these hunters are actually making it more dangerous for them, and they're gonna start disappearing too, and they've got it like undercover. And she's like, oh my god, I can't believe you're telling me right now that you're about to like kill all the hunters. Could you well try not to be a werewolf? Girl, you're pissing me off. Like I have a choice about it, he says. You know what makes me so mad I could just spit? You're such a hypocrite, Bella. There you sit, terrified of me. How is that fair? Hypocrite? Hypocrite? Why can't I say that word right now? How does being afraid of a monster make me a hypocrite? Well, I'm sorry that I can't be the right kind of monster for you, Bella. I guess I'm just not as great as a bloodsucker, am I? No, you're not. It's not what you are, stupid. It's what you do. Is it really necessary to kill people, Jacob? I mean, if vampires can find a way to survive without murdering people, couldn't you give it a try too? Killing people, he demanded. I thought we were talking about your disgust for werewolves. No, Jake, no. It's not that you're a wolf. That's fine. This dialogue is crazy. I really don't care if he turned into a big wolf. He was still Jacob. If he could just find a way not to hurt people. You really honestly don't mind that I morph into a giant dog? No, I gasped. I'm not a killer, Bella. Versus, this is the skin of a killer, Bella. He explains that they're protectors. We're trying to do our job, Bella. We're trying to protect them, but we're always a little too late. Protect them from what? Is there really a bear out there too? Bella, honey. Honey? Honey? We only protect people for one thing, our one enemy. It's the reason we exist, because they do. The blood drained from my face and a thin, wordless cry of horror broke through my lips. Laurent, I whispered, he's still here. Who's Laurent? You know, you saw him in the meadow. So she's referring to the fact that she knows which wolf he is. You were there and you kept him from killing me. Oh, the black-haired leech? Was that his name? killing the bloodsucker who is going to kill you. Now, I don't count that towards the whole murder thing. Vampires don't count as people. So he explains to her that they actually killed Laurent, and she cannot believe that the werewolves were able to kill a vampire, because in her head, the vampires are much scarier than the werewolves. She also explains to him that if he gets too angry or upset, he could hurt her because he's not like super in control of things yet. What would happen if you got too mad? I'd turn into a wolf. You don't need a full moon. Girlfriend, at this point, every second you bring up an old wives' tale is just embarrassing because none of them were true with the vampires, so why would they be true with the werewolves? If Laurent died a few weeks ago, then someone is killing people now. There were 2 of them. We thought his mate would want to fight us. In our stories, they usually get pretty pissed off if you kill their mate, but she just keeps running away and then coming back again. If we could figure out what she was after, it would be easier to take her down. Basically, they think that Victoria and Laurent were together and that Victoria wants revenge for them killing Laurent, but Bella is piecing together that Victoria is there for her. It was just luck that she hadn't found me yet. Just luck and 5 teenage werewolves. Love that. So it is kind of interesting that Edward never explained the werewolf thing to her, considering they had a treaty with the werewolves. And then he explains the whole thing of why, like, he had to tell the group that he was seeing Bella. See, when we're wolves, we can hear each other. Not hear sounds, he went on, but we can hear thoughts, each other's anyway, no matter how far away we are from each other. It really helps when we hunt, but it's a big pain otherwise. It's embarrassing having no secrets like that. She says, you're not the first person I've known that can read other people's minds, so it doesn't seem so weird to me. He wants to bring Bella to go talk to the rest of the werewolves, and he doesn't think that Sam's gonna be happy with this. Sam told me I couldn't tell you. He's the head of the pack, you know. He's the alpha. It's kind of a wolf thing. Please no. Please no. He says he can't imagine what this would have been like for Sam when he had to do it alone, because Sam was the first one who had turned into a wolf, and he didn't have the rest of the pack to like walk him through it. He had to figure out what was happening by himself, which yeah, would have been terrifying. I have less than half of the book to talk about, so we will be back soon. Hi. So I have literally that much left to read. I just made myself lunch. I'm gonna take a little break from work and I'm gonna finish this motherfucking book. I'm so excited, and I'm sitting by the Christmas tree. I finished New Moon today, and very promptly, I mean, within a few seconds, started Eclipse. I almost finished the whole book while I was sitting there on the couch today. I had like 10 pages left, but I wanted to go for a walk before it got too dark. So I did that, came back, had a bath, finished it, started reading Eclipse. I miss the days when it was warm enough to go sit outside and read in the morning. Like, that was peak. Hi guys, I have my little coffee. This is by far my favorite mug ever. The Christmas season has come and gone, okay? It is like the beginning of January and Christmas mugs are gone, unfortunately. Very sad, but I am not sad to see the Christmas season gone, because this has been the best start to a new year I have ever had. Like, the energy is amazing. I'm gonna turn on this light because it feels a little dark. Hold on. Oh yeah. Okay, I don't know, like, it just feels like the energy has been cleansed. Like, this is truly a fresh start. I had a little moment last night, but other than that, I've been very, very happy and very excited and starting to feel like my old self again. It was just kind of a transitional year, a year to heal and grow and get over things. And yeah, so I do want to wrap up my thoughts on this book because I finished reading it, but I didn't finish discussing it. And I also started Eclipse already, so we gotta move it on forward, and I'm really excited for you guys to see this vlog. I just spilled a little bit of coffee on my book, but I already beat this book the fuck up anyway, so it's all right. It's also laundry day. I have my sheets in the dryer right now. So Jacob takes Bella to like go talk to his group. Paul is very volatile and can't control his outbursts, so he's like really mad at Bella because she loves the vampires, and he freaks out, and turns into a werewolf. So this is the first time she's seeing someone transform into a werewolf. Oh, and this does happen in the movie, doesn't it? Just in a slightly different way. Paul seemed to fall forward, vibrating violently. Halfway to the ground, there was a loud ripping noise, and the boy exploded. I thought that was a fairly good way to describe the change. Dark silver fur blew out from the boy, coalescing into a shape more than 5 times his size. A massive, crouched shape ready to spring. Jacob was running across the road, straight for the monster. Shreds of black and white cloth blasted up into the air. This is very dramatic. The boys take her to Emily's house. And Embry says, well, the wolf's out of the bag now, which is funny. The boys are funny. She's Sam's girlfriend. No, fiance now, I guess. Does Emily know about... Don't stare at her, that bugs Sam. Why would I stare? Hanging out around wolves has its risks. Bella also asks about how the treaty could possibly be broken, and they tell her that if a vampire bites a human, the treaty will be broken. Me when my man who's not my man texts me. That was ridiculous. I literally need to stop because every man I've talked to this year, like, didn't work out. So, last year. This is a new year, but anyway. Yeah, now they go to Emily's. For one second, I thought the reason Embry had told me not to stare was because the girl was so beautiful. He literally responds to, like, every tiny message that I send, and I, like, overshare. I love that. One time he sent me 21 messages in a row, and I was, like, cheesing. I was like, send me more next time. Anyway. I said that I liked Pride. I told him that I like Pride and Prejudice. He said, are you telling me to read it? Because I will be. You have to tell me to. This is not the first time that I've got a man to read Pride and Prejudice. Okay, I'm going to go fill up my cup of coffee, and then I promise I'll be ready to discuss. Okay, so they're at Emily's house, and they see that she has this, or Bella sees that she has this scar on her face. The right side of her face was scarred from the hairline to the chin by 3 thick red lines, livid in color, even though they were long healed. One line pulled down the corner of her dark almond-shaped right eye. Another twisted the right side of her mouth into a permanent grimace. Leave it to Jacob to find a way around. She stared at me, and neither half of her once beautiful face was friendly. I have a problem with this. I hate how she's described as once being beautiful, like her face being mangled. Like, yeah, I think it's important to, I'm saying this as if werewolves are a real thing. It's important to talk about why this is a dangerous and toxic situation. Like, the love of her life hurt her, but she's still a beautiful woman. Like, I don't know. It just felt a little off the way it was described. So, you're the vampire girl? I stiffened. Yes. Are you the wolf girl? I guess I am. And she's described as being very, very cold at this scene in the book, but I feel like in the movie she was portrayed as like a little nicer. Then shut up and eat, Sam suggested, kissing Emily's ruined mouth again. Like, are you joking? So then Charlie picks her up. What's going on, Bella? I thought Jacob was a part of a gang and you two were fighting. We made up. And the gang? I don't know. But who can understand teenage boys? They're a mystery. I met Sam Yulee and his fiancée, Emily. They seem pretty nice to me. Must have all been a misunderstanding. And then they start talking about Emily, the fiancée. Do you know what happened to her? Bella asked. Mauled by a bear up north during salmon spawning season. Horrible accident. It was more than a year ago. I heard Sam was really messed up over it. That's horrible, I echoed. More than a year ago, I'd bet that meant it had happened when there was just one werewolf in La Push. I shuddered at the thought of how Sam must have felt every time he looked at Emily's face. So she's piecing 2 and 2 together that Paul was the one who had done this to her. Or Sam. Sam was the one who had done this to her. When I dreamed, I stood in the forest again, but I didn't wander. I was holding Emily's scarred hand as we faced into the shadows and waited anxiously for our werewolves to come home. And I made a note that she always claims people. Like, now she's saying our werewolves. Like, before it was our, like, my vampire. Like, it just seems, if you don't want him, why are you claiming him like that? So she supposes that since she's been spending so much time in La Push, people are starting to assume that they are together. Mike asks her, are you dating that kid from La Push, the sophomore? He asked, poorly disguising the resentment in his tone. I shrugged, not in the technical sense of the word. I do spend most of my time with Jacob, though. He's my best friend. Don't kid yourself, Bella. That guy's head over heels for you. I know, I sighed. Life is complicated, and girls are cruel, Mike said under his breath. So now, at this point, Jacob is going to take Bella cliff diving. Remember, she said she wanted to go cliff diving. Now he's on board with it because he's a wolf and he knows that he'll be able to protect her. But he has to go because they spot Victoria and they think they're going to catch her. She decides that she's going to go cliff jumping anyway because she hasn't heard Edward's voice in a while, and she knows that if she does that, she's going to hear his voice because she would be doing something dangerous. Jake had planned to take me off the lower outcropping rather than the top, but I didn't have another time to find a way down. The storm was moving so quickly now. It was not hard to convince myself that I didn't have time to search for another way. I wanted to jump from the top. She wants to do like whatever is the most dangerous option, pretty much. So she goes up there and I flung myself off the cliff. What I thought about is Esme had told her the story. I think it was she lost her baby and so she threw herself off a cliff, and Bella does this without even thinking about it. She just goes up there and jumps off, like no fear, like no worries. But imagine Esme hearing that she did that, and of course Alice thinks that she tried to end it all at this point. It didn't surprise me that the delusion of Edward was there. He owed me that much, considering that I was dying. I was surprised by how sure that knowledge was. I was going down, I was drowning. I could see his perfect face as if he were really there, the exact shade of his icy skin, the shape of his lips, the line of his jaw, the gold glinting in his furious eyes. He was angry, naturally, that I was giving up. Even as my lungs burned for more air and my legs cramped in the icy cold, I was content. I'd forgotten what real happiness felt like. So again, I have a little bit of an issue. It's one thing to portray your character as being depressed, heartbroken, not making the right decisions, but to describe her literally dying as her feeling happy for the first time in a long time, this is a teen book, okay? That's a little bit damaging and a little bit weird. Jacob saves her. And now we're going back to the Romeo and Juliet analogy. She's thinking that Romeo is Edward, she is Juliet, and Jacob is Paris. And what if she loved Paris? Not like Romeo, nothing like that, of course, but enough that she wanted him to be happy too. All right. Then she says this: maybe I can change my ways. Maybe. It wouldn't be easy. In fact, it would be downright miserable to give up my hallucinations and try to be a grown-up, but maybe I should do it. And maybe I could if I had Jacob. She is framing Jacob as like the end-all be-all. Because she can't have Edward, she needs Jacob in order to feel whole, to feel like, I don't know, like she's not alone, like she's worth it, like someone loves her, like someone is obsessed with her. I'm not really sure. It's just very extra. Then Jacob is taking her home. They're together in his car. He's shirtless. Jake pressed his warm cheek against the top of my hair. If I turned my face to the side, if I pressed my lips against his bare shoulder, ... She's thinking, under the circumstances, Edward would want me to be as happy as possible. How can I be happy? It's not like she's thinking, maybe I do have feelings for Jacob. Maybe I do like Jacob. It's like, no, maybe, possibly, maybe I could be happy with him. It's all out of selfishness. But could I do it? Could I betray my absent heart to save my pathetic life? Butterflies assaulted my stomach as I thought about turning my head. And then, as clearly as if it were immediate danger, Edward's velvet voice whispered in my ear. Be happy, he told me. So nothing really happens, but that was the only real moment in the book where she was considering being with him. So the thought was there, but again, it came from selfish desire, not from actual love for him. Romantic love, anyway. He says that there is a vampire outside and he can smell it. She notices that it's a Mercedes and it was Carlisle's car. So she runs out and he's like, no, don't do it. I can't protect you, blah, 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 blah. Then she starts wondering if maybe it's a trick because she remembers when she was in the water, she saw a flicker of bright orange and, you know, it was Victoria in the water with her. Alice is shocked to see Bella there. Alice's neck was tight, straining away from me, her lips pressed together firmly. Her eyes were black as pitch. Black as pitch is a crazy way to explain it, I think. pitch black? What is pitch? Pitch black. Black is pitch. She was thirsty and I smelled appetizing. It's my own fault. It's been too long since I hunted, she said, but I was in a hurry today. Speaking of which, would you like to explain to me how you're alive? I realized what must have happened immediately and why Alice was here. You saw me fall. I saw you jump. I told him this would happen, but he didn't believe me. I wasn't keeping tabs on you, I swear, Bella. It's just that I'm already attuned to you. When I saw you jumping, I didn't think. I just got on a plane. I knew I would be too late, but I couldn't do nothing. And then I get here, thinking maybe I could help Charlie somehow, and you drive up. I saw you go into the water, and I waited and waited for you to come up, but you didn't. Bella says I only jumped for recreational purposes. Alice is confused that Jacob pulled her out because she didn't see him. She cannot see werewolves in her visions for some reason. Then she deliberately leaned in and sniffed my shoulder. Don't be ridiculous. Who was with you out there just now? It sounded like you were arguing. Jacob Black. He's sort of my best friend. He's sort of a werewolf. The Quillets turn into wolves and when there are vampires around. They know Carlisle from a long time ago. Were you with Carlisle back then? Okay, yeah, that's the other thing. So the legend says that like when vampires are on the territory is when they start turning into wolves again to like protect the people in the area. Well, I guess it explains the smell, she muttered. But does it explain why I didn't see the smell? I repeated. You smell awful. Bella says if it weren't for the werewolves, Victoria would have gotten me by now. And Alice says our leaving didn't do you any good at all, did it? And Alice is going to have a little sleepover, which I thought was like a lot more fun than the way they did in the movie. Edward doesn't know that Alice is there. He's not even with the rest of the family. He checks in every few months. When Bella is asleep, she overhears Alice and Charlie talking in the kitchen about her. How bad was it, Charlie? Real bad. Tell me about it. I want to know exactly what happened when we left. Okay, this is a long section, so I'm going to warm up my coffee and get set up at the desk. Okay, so the way Charlie describes it is done really well, but it's a little bit lengthy. I've never felt so helpless. Charlie began slowly. I didn't know what to do. That first week, I thought I was going to have to hospitalize her. She wouldn't eat or drink, she wouldn't move. And also in retrospect, since we didn't get any details on what was going on, it was just like the October, November, December. I think it was done well for us to fill in those gaps later on once she's a bit better. She snapped out of it though. I had Renee come to take her to Florida. I just didn't want to be the one if she had to go to a hospital or something. I hoped being with her mother would help. But when we started packing her clothes, she woke up with a vengeance. I've never seen Bella throw a fit like that. She was never one for tantrums, but boy did she fly into a fury. She threw clothes everywhere and screamed that we couldn't make her leave, and then she finally started crying. I thought that would be the turning point. I didn't argue when she insisted on staying here, and she did seem to get better at first. She went back to school and work. She ate and slept and did her homework. She answered when someone asked her a direct question, but she was empty. Her eyes were blank. There were lots of little things. She wouldn't listen to music anymore. I found a bunch of CDs broken in the trash. She didn't read. She wouldn't be in the same room when the TV was on. Not that she watched it so much before. I finally figured it out. She was avoiding everything that might remind her of him. She had literally ripped the stereo. I don't know if I mentioned this before. She had literally ripped the stereo out of the car, the one that Emmett had bought her, because she didn't want any reminders. Like, she wouldn't listen to music in the car or anything like that either. She was alone all the time. She didn't call her friends back. After a while, they stopped calling. It was Night of the Living Dead around here. I still hear her screaming in her sleep. Ever since she started hanging out with Jacob Black, I've noticed real improvements. He's a year or so younger than her. 2 years. And I know she used to think of him as a friend, but I think maybe it's something more now. We're headed in that direction anyway. Like, see, the way she acts about him makes everyone around her think that they're together. He's good for Bella, you know. Even with Jacob, now and then I see something in her eyes, and I wonder if I've ever grasped how much pain she's really in. It's not normal, Alice. It frightens me. Not normal at all. Not like someone left her, but someone died. And what was I saying earlier on in this video about breakups not being taken seriously enough? It genuinely feels like someone has died and you are grieving the death of that person, especially if you never talk to them again. I'm not sure if it's in her nature to heal from something like this. She's always been such a constant little thing. She doesn't get past things, change her mind. Alice says the last time I spoke with him, he was in South America. Well, I hope he's enjoying himself. For the first time, Alice's voice had a bit of steel in it. I wouldn't make assumptions, Charlie. So we're piecing together here and there that he's not happy and maybe he didn't really want to leave Bella. Duh. Like, obviously. So later on, Alice starts talking about her life. Remember, in the first book, she found out who she was because she couldn't remember anything before that. She'd successfully tracked down the asylum where she spent the last few years of her human life. My name was Mary Alice Brandon. I had a little sister named Cynthia. Her daughter, my niece, is still alive. I found my grave. The date on the admission and the date on my tombstone are the same, which means when her family put her in this asylum, they essentially had a funeral for her. She was dead to them. Isn't that the most sickening fucking thing you've ever heard in your life? Like, that is terrible. Bella wants to be friends with both of them at the same time, and Jacob says that this isn't possible. But then begrudgingly, he says, I'll always be your friend no matter what you love. He describes the vampire smell as too sweet, sickly sweet, and icy. It burns my nose. He pressed his palm against my cheek so that my face was trapped between his burning hands. Bella, he whispered. I was frozen. No, I hadn't made this decision yet. I don't know if I can do this. I would have been a fool if I thought rejecting him now would have no consequences, which I thought was gross. Like, she's not only worried about whether or not kissing him is something that she wants. She's worried about how he's going to react to the rejection. And after I just read what I read in Eclipse, I'm like halfway through Eclipse, I'm traumatized. Because the toxic masculinity, no. It gets really bad. Then the phone rings. Jacob picks it up. Swan residence. Someone answered, and Jacob altered in an instant. He's not here, Jacob said, and the words were menacing. He's at the funeral. Then Jacob hung up the phone. Filthy bloodsucker, he muttered under his breath. Who did you just hang up on? In my house and on my phone. Easy. He hung up on me. Dr. Carlisle Cullen? He didn't ask for you. He asked where Charlie was, and I told him. Then Alice comes in. Something's wrong. Edward was all she whispered. We have to hurry. Rosalie, so Alice told Rosalie when she left that Bella had jumped off a cliff and that's where she was going. Rosalie told Edward that Bella was dead. Edward called the house to see if Bella was dead, and Jacob said, he's at the funeral. Meaning, of course, what's his name? The other guy. Harry Clearwater's funeral. But Edward, of course, assumes this is Bella's funeral. That wasn't Carlisle on the phone. That was Edward. He thinks you're dead. I hate this. I hate a miscommunication trope. This is like when I listen to Abby Jimenez books on audiobook. I love Abby Jimenez. I love her writing. I love the good vibes. There's always a miscommunication, though. I'd rather there just be like a straight up conflict. Like, why? Oh, I can't stand it. You're not upset, Alice asks. Well, it's really rotten timing, but it'll get all straightened out. The next time he calls, someone will tell him what really happened. No, you don't understand, Bella. He's going to Italy. But he left, Bella said. He didn't want me anymore. What difference does it make now? He knew I would die sometime. I don't think he ever planned to outlive you by long, Alice said quickly. How dare he? Bella screamed. Edward has a backup plan. They're very protective of their city. If Edward does something to upset the peace, he thinks they'll act to stop him, and he's right, they will. So they are going to Volturi City. But Jacob, he keeps asking her not to go. He says, you could stay here with me, you could stay alive for Charlie, for me. And I think he was really desperate at this point because he knows he has no chance with Bella once Edward returns. There's also a line that says the tires screeching like human screams. I thought that was really weak writing. I didn't like that. Bella is the one that has to like run and save Edward because anyone else Edward will see coming and he will rush into it. Alice is trying to explain like what the Volturi is, like what the vibe is. We Cullens are unique in more ways than you know. It's abnormal for so many of us to live together in peace. This is something I didn't realize until I reread the series. Carlisle speculates that abstaining makes it easier for us to be civilized, to form bonds based on love rather than survival or convenience. Even James's little coven of 3 was unusually large, and you saw how easily Laurent left them. Our kind travel alone or in pairs as a general rule. Carlisle's family is the biggest in existence as far as I know, with one exception, the Volturi. There were 3 of them originally, Ero, Caius, and Marcus. 2 females join them over time, and 5 of them make up the family. I'm not sure, but I suspect that their age is what gives them the ability to live peacefully together. They were well over 3,000 years old, or maybe it's the gifts that give them extra tolerance. Like Edward and I, Arrow and Marcus are talented. There's only one core restriction to being a vampire, and if you think about it, you could probably figure it out for yourself. We just have to keep our existence a secret. So if Edward exposes himself, it's like clear that they have to stop him. The Volturi have decided to tell him no, they're not going to destroy him because his gifts are too valuable. Bella says that she wishes she was a vampire, and she says, actually, Bella, honestly, I think it's gotten beyond ridiculous. I'm debating whether just to change you myself. Okay, girl. Oh, Alice, do it now. I could help you so much. And I wouldn't slow you down. Bite me. Try to be responsible. We have to get into Volterra tomorrow. You'd be writhing in pain for days. I don't understand, though, why Bella wants to be a vampire so bad at this point, because she's under the assumption that Edward has hated her the whole time. And in Eclipse, when she's describing to Edward, like, why she wants to be a vampire so bad, she's like, no, I don't just want to be a vampire. I want to be immortal because I want to be with you forever. So if Edward hates her so much and literally doesn't want to be with her, what's the point of being a vampire at this point? It just like doesn't really add up that much. She thinks Edward could run after his distractions all he wanted and I could follow. Maybe when I was beautiful and strong, he wouldn't want distractions. Ew. Ew. Ew, 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 ew. That's what we're not going to do for a man, okay? Become a vampire forever to follow him around? Make it make sense. Make it make sense. All right. Then Alice steals a bright yellow Porsche. It's St. Marcus Day, which is a celebration of Marcus of the Volturi, who drove all the vampires from Volterra 1,500 years ago. No one is able to drive through the city, so Bella, of course, has to run her way to the clock tower. I could see him now, and I could see that he could not see me. Just a few feet from the mouth of the alley, his eyes were closed, the rings underneath them deep purple, his arms relaxed at his side, his palms turned forward. His expression was very peaceful, like he was dreaming pleasant things. I slammed into him so hard that the force would have hurled me to the ground if his arms hadn't caught me and held me up. Amazing, he said. Carlisle was right. I'm not dead, and neither are you. Bella said. What was that? He asked politely. You're not dead, not yet, but we have to get out of here before the Volturi. He yanked me away from the edge of the shadows. Greetings, gentlemen, to the 2 men from the Volturi. I don't think I'll be requiring your services today. I would appreciate very much, however, if you would send my thanks to your masters. I know your instructions, Felix. I haven't broken any rules. Arrow would simply like to speak with you again if you have decided not to force our hand after all. Certainly, but the girl goes free. I'm afraid that's not possible. Alice shows up very casual about the whole ordeal. Jane is there. Follow me, she spoke, her childish voice in a monotone. I love Jane. I have a Barbie doll of Jane. Not Barbie, but like a doll of Jane. Let me know if you want to see it. Anyway, then they slide down an open hole in the street, which is very interesting. For now, it felt like he wanted me, and that was enough to offset the horror of the subterranean tunnel and the prowling vampires behind us. It was probably no more than guilt, the same guilt that compelled him to come here to die when he believed that it was his fault that I'd killed myself. At least I could be with him again before I died. That was better than a long life. I did think the encounter with the Volturi was very interesting, though, because in New Moon, the movie, we see them like fighting with the Volturi, like there's a huge thing happening, and it's much more peaceful than that, but it's written like tense still. Felix and Dimitri were both of slightly olive complexion. It looked odd combined with their chalky pallor. The man who spoke first wore one of the long robes. It was pitch black and brushed against the floor. Long jet black hair was in the hood of his cloak. I honestly love him. And Alice and Bella too. This is a happy surprise. Wonderful. Like, he is so theatrical and he's so chill even though he's scary. Like, I think he is written so well. He smiles at Edward like a fond but scolding grandfather. Grandfather. Aren't you glad that I didn't give you what you wanted yesterday? Yes, Arrow, I am. I love a happy ending, Arrow sighed. They're so rare. Your brother seemed to think you're infallible, but apparently there was some mistake. Oh, I'm far from infallible. To Alice, whose visions can change. Arrow shares that he shares some of Edward's talent, but is limited. Arrow needs physical contact to hear your thoughts, but he hears much more than I do. You know I can only hear what's passing through your head in the moment. Arrow hears every thought your mind has ever had. Arrow says, but to be able to hear from a distance, that would be so convenient. The dark-haired man seemed utterly bored. Like he'd seen too many millennia of Arrow's enthusiasm. The others' faces were sour under the snowy hair. Their lack of interest did not curb Arrow's enjoyment. I love this man. He is also intrigued by Carlisle's way of life and how he's managed to remain a strong vampire even without drinking human blood. He also says that he means Bella no harm. Bella, I'm fascinated that you are the one exception to Edward's impressive talent. So very interesting that such a thing should occur. Would you allow me to try to see if you are an exception for me as well? So Arrow cannot hear Bella's thoughts either. Like, it's just so interesting. Like, as a little human, why? Why can no one hear her thoughts? I really don't know. Jane is going to unleash her fury on Bella. Doesn't work. Nothing happens. Arrow asks Edward and Alice if they would join the Volturi, and he says no, and she says no. And he asks Bella, which I thought was funny. Can you imagine the possibilities when she is one of us? No, thank you. I spoke up. Caius wants Bella to die because she knows too much, and their one law is, of course, that humans aren't supposed to know about vampires. Edward says that they have a few humans among them that know the secret. Yes, but when they are no longer useful to us, they will serve to sustain us, and that is not your plan for this one. If she betrays our secrets, are you prepared to destroy her? I think not. Nor do you intend to make her one of us. Therefore, she is a vulnerability. Only her life is forfeit. You may leave if you wish. Which I find interesting, because if Edward is the one who broke the law, sure, they want to get rid of Bella, but wouldn't he be punished for breaking the law too? But they don't seem worried about punishing Edward, they just seem worried about getting rid of Bella, really. Arrow asks, unless you do intend to give her immortality? Such a hopeful little man. And if I do, why then you would be free to go home and give my regards to my friend Carlisle. Alice shows the vision of Bella becoming a vampire, and he starts laughing. That was absolutely fascinating to see the things you have seen, especially the ones that haven't happened yet. But that will, she reminded him, voice calm. Yes, it's quite determined. Certainly there's no problem. And I find this very interesting because she had just explained that Bella hadn't died because her visions aren't infallible. Meaning, like, her visions aren't always true and she can see things wrong. Yet he's very convinced that this is set in stone. Bella will be a vampire. So he's not very smart, is he? They say that they're going to visit them to make sure that they kept the promise. I also noted that the word conspicuous is used quite often in all of the books. It's conspicuous and inconspicuous. Bella's like, I'm low-key happy right now. Edward's like, I'm low-key happy too because we're alive and we're together. He also keeps kissing her. Oh my god, also, on page 493, I fought with my heavy eyelids and I won because she's trying to stay awake to like live every second that she can with him. And then 2 pages later, 495, I won the fight against my heavy eyelids. Who edited this book? Okay, who edited this book? Then they go home to Bella's house. I can't believe you have the nerve to show your face here, Charlie bellowed at Edward, his voice much closer now. Win, Charlie, win. But he takes it too far. She's just very tired, Charlie, Edward assured him. Please let her rest. Don't tell me what to do, Charlie yelled. Give her to me. Get your hands off her. She wakes up and she thinks she's in a dream. She thinks she dreamt the whole Volterra situation. Oh, I gasped and threw my fist over my eyes. Well, clearly I'd gone too far. It must have been a mistake to let my imagination get so out of hand because she'd been letting the Edward delusions in too much because she's like seeing him in bed with her. His irises were pitch black. Also, the overuse of pitch black is starting to piss me off. I can see where you might confuse me with a nightmare. I slowly realized that Edward really was truly here with me. Edward tries to explain what he was doing in all the time that he was gone. I was hunting. I wasn't hunting for food. I was actually trying my hand at tracking. I'm not very good at it. I thought it was safe for you here. So safe. I had no idea that Victoria would come back. Bella says it's not your fault. I know you want to shoulder the blame for everything, but you can't let that go to such extremes. She thinks that she has to set him free and make sure this never happens again. Isabel Marie Swan, he whispered. Do you believe that I asked the Volturi to kill me because I felt guilty? She needed to be snapped out of it, honestly. Bella, I went to the Volturi because I thought you were dead. Even if I'd had no hand in your death, even if it wasn't my fault, I would have gone to Italy. Bella, I can't live in a world where you don't exist. I'm a good liar, Bella. I have to be. She is just so gullible. All of the signs are pointing to like he lied from the very beginning, and she just is so insecure about herself that she doesn't want to believe that. But how could you believe me? After all the thousands of times I told you I love you, how could you let one word break your faith in me? I will say, although all the signs were there and she shouldn't have still at this point believed that he didn't love her, it is kind of all it takes, is the one time. I know I'm like kind of contradicting myself here. I just think like in this case it was very obvious, but in real life someone can say I love you a million times, but the second they say like I don't love you, I never want to see you again, that's all it takes. Like that's literally a breakup. Like that is it. Bye. See ya. You don't deserve me. How can I put this so you'll believe me? You're not asleep and you're not dead. I'm here and I love you. I have always loved you. I will always love you. I was thinking of you, seeing your face in my mind every second that I was away. When I told you I didn't want you, that was the blackest kind of blasphemy. By the way, he said in a casual tone, I'm not leaving you. Okay. I'm not going anywhere, not without you. Bella says, you could mean it now, but change your mind again, which is fair. I was coming back anyway. Before Rosalie told me the news, I was already past trying to live through 1 week at a time, or even one day. I was fighting to make it through a single hour. It was only a matter of time, and not much of it, before I showed up at your window and begged you to take me back. I'd be happy to beg now, if you'd like that. Before you, Bella. My life was like a moonless night. Very dark, but there were stars, points of light and reason. This is too much. And then you shot across my sky like a meteor. Suddenly everything was on fire. There was brilliancy. There was beauty. When you were gone, when the meteor had fallen over the horizon, everything went black. I'm sorry, if somebody said this to me, I would be cringed out a little. Nothing had changed, but my eyes were blinded by the light. I couldn't see the stars anymore, and there was no more reason for anything. I literally said, bad. It's bad. Then he says that he's going to do everything he can to track down Victoria. I'll do better this time. She won't be tainting perfectly good air by breathing in and out for much longer. He also explains that the Volturi isn't going to come for her right away. Time means something very different to them than it does to you or even me. They count years the way you count days. I wouldn't be surprised if you were 30 before you crossed their minds again. You do realize that I'll die eventually, right? I'll follow after as soon as I can. That is seriously sick, she said. She says, I'm leaving. May I ask where you're going? I'm going to your house, I told him. Here are your shoes. How do you plan to get there? My truck. If you're going to bring the Volturi down on us over something as stupid as leaving me human, then your family ought to have a say. Say in what? My mortality. I'm putting it to a vote. He also explains that he literally left all the gifts and the pictures in the floorboards. Edward thinks that the Volturi isn't really going to be able to find Bella because none of the other talents work on her. Alice will be able to tell when they're planning a visit, and I'll hide you, they'll be helpless. But they can find you, I reminded him, and I can take care of myself. Emmett laughed and reached across the table toward his brother, extending a fist. Excellent plan, my brother, he said with enthusiasm. I will say, Twilight was funny, like the way Edward and Bella made fun of each other, and we didn't really get as much humor in this book. Alice says yes. Jasper says yes. Rosalie says no. I don't mean that I have any aversion to you as a sister. It's just that this is not a life I would have chosen for myself. I wish there had been someone there to vote no for me, which is what she says in the movie as well. Emmett says, hell yes, we can find some other way to pick a fight with Dimitri. And I find this so funny because he was just cheering on Edward for like having a good plan. And then he's like, yeah, you can be a vampire, like going against Edward. Esme says, yes, I already see you as part of the family. Carlisle says, it's the only thing that makes sense. Well, Alice, where do you want to do this? Alice stared at me, eyes widening with terror. No, 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 Edward roared. Are you insane? He shouted. Bella, Alice interjected in an anxious voice. I don't think I'm ready for that. I'll need to prepare. Carlisle said that he can do it. Edward says, we're not doing this right now. In the interest of remaining inconspicuous, oh my god, he requests that Bella wait at least until graduation. I looked at Carlisle. After graduation, you have my word. But Bella says to Edward, I would want Carlisle to not have to do it. I would want you to change me. What would you be willing to trade for that? 5 years? Not good enough. 1 year, I said. That's my limit. At least give me 2. I'm not going anywhere near 20. If you're staying in your teens forever, then so am I. Forget time limits. If you want me to be the one, then you'll just have to meet one condition. Marry me first. I'm only 18. Well, I'm nearly 110. It's time I settled down. She says that she doesn't want to get married because she doesn't think her parents would want that for her. Bella makes up some story to explain to Charlie like where she's been. So he's back then, he asked. I think they all are. I want you to stay away from them, Bella. I don't trust him. He's rotten for you. I won't let him mess you up like that again. Fine, I said curtly. I thought you were going to be difficult. I am. I stared straight into his eyes. I meant fine, I'll move out. And you're going to have to ease up on Edward if you want me to stay. Do you want me to live here or not? Okay, I get that she wants to be with her vampire boyfriend, but it's really not absurd that Charlie would hate him and not want, like, she is 18, but she is his child, his teenager, and Edward fucked her up. Like, she was screaming in the middle of the night. Like, obviously he doesn't want her to be with Edward. I wouldn't either. I don't even know what I would do in this situation, but like, you cannot be with that man. Then Bella says to Edward, if you really believed that you'd lost your soul, then when I found you in Voltura, you would have realized immediately what was happening, instead of thinking we were both dead together. But you didn't. You said, amazing, Carlisle was right. So Edward subconsciously thought that he had gone to heaven, meaning she's not going to lose her soul. Or they don't believe that either of them are going to lose their souls. Epilogue. Charlie was not happy with me or speaking to Edward, but at least Edward was allowed during my designated visiting hours inside the house again. I just wasn't allowed out of it. I wasn't at liberty to go to La Push, and Jacob wasn't coming to see me. He wouldn't even answer my phone calls. I have to talk about the writing in this one paragraph. I turned my face toward him, to smile half-heartedly. Every time I look at his face, that impossibly perfect face. My heart pounded strong and healthy and very there in my chest. This time the pounding raced, ahead of its unusual besotted pace. I recognized the expression of his statue-still face. Not the rhyming, not the Dr. Seuss. Bella comes home one day, and the motorcycle is in the fucking driveway. Jacob brought the fucking motorcycle to the fucking driveway. Jacob Black wants to see me. That's why he's still here. Edward says that. Bella asks why Jacob did that. He didn't want to hurt anyone. He just wanted to get you grounded so that you wouldn't be allowed to spend time with me. Aw, Jake, I groaned. I'm already grounded. Why do you think I haven't gone down to La Push to kick your butt for avoiding my phone calls? She's way too nice to him. He thought I wouldn't let you, not Charlie, Edward explained again. Edward thanks Jacob for protecting Bella when he was gone. The treaty is quite specific. If any of them bite a human, the truce is over. Bite, not kill, he emphasized. Finally, he looked at me. His eyes were cold. That's none of your business, Bella says. He hadn't realized or didn't want to believe that I had already made my choice. Then he gets really angry. Edward says, careful, he's not under control. Ugh, I would never hurt her, Jacob says. She is going to do everything she can to keep Jacob as a friend despite becoming a vampire. I had some serious problems. My best friend counted me with his enemies. Victoria was still on the loose, putting everyone I loved in danger. If I didn't become a vampire soon, the Volturi would kill me. And now it seemed that if I did, the werewolves would try to do the job themselves, along with trying to kill my future family. I didn't think they had any chance, really, but what would my best friend get himself killed in the attempt? And that is that, you guys. I think this vlog was a bit longer than Twilight, just because more shit happened. Like, I had more things to talk about. But yeah, let me know if you like vlogs this long, or if I should try to keep it closer to the hour mark, like my first one. When it comes to Eclipse, I feel like in Eclipse I might not have as much to talk about anyway. Yeah, but this was really juicy. This was really fun. I do genuinely believe that New Moon is my favorite in the series, but I do remember really liking Breaking Dawn. Pretty Little Liars videos coming soon. More of the Twilight reading vlogs coming soon. If you want to find the books or any of the Pretty Little Liars books or anything like that, or any of the books I've been recently reading, you can go to my bookshop.org page. You can go to my Benable page for links to anything else. And I love you, and thanks for being here. And let me know your thoughts on Twilight or New Moon or anything else in this sphere. Love you. Bye.